How does Earth's atmosphere change in character from day to night? In what ways does the night air influence the sounds and scents around you? Why can the atmosphere be seen as both a protective shield and a calming presence at night? Night arrives gently, unfolding like a soft blanket across the sky. The high clouds are brushed with the last hues of sunset, a gentle pink and gold that melts into a deep purple near the horizon. As the sun's glow retreats, the western sky holds onto a faint band of orange, gradually dimming, while overhead the blue deepens into velvet indigo. The transition is peaceful, as if the day is sighing contentedly into sleep. One by one, the first stars peek out, timid at first against the twilight, then growing bolder as the minutes pass. They are like little silver pins poking through a dark fabric, heralding the coming of true night. All around you, the world is settling down. A hush falls over the landscape as daytime creatures find their rest and nocturnal ones stir quietly. In the distance, perhaps a last bird sings a delicate lullaby before night takes hold fully. Perhaps a few fireflies blink in the bushes or along the meadow, tiny earthly stars echoing the heavens above. The air cools gently on your skin, carrying the faint scent of earth and grass. Each breath you take is calming and slow, filled with the freshness of the evening. You find yourself in a safe, familiar place on Earth, maybe lying in the soft grass of a quiet hillside, or sitting on a comfortable porch step. Above, the sky continues to darken, revealing more of its countless stars. They shimmer like distant campfires, ancient and patient. With every passing moment, more stars reveal themselves, as if the universe is gradually opening a storybook just for you. The night opens over Earth in a way that feels both timeless and immediate. Generations before you have gazed at this same sky, watching day turn to night, finding comfort in the slow, predictable rhythm of twilight. Now you too are part of this peaceful transition. As the last light of day slips away, you can feel the gentle embrace of the night sky overhead. Vast, but welcoming. Quiet, yet alive with distant light. In this darkness, there is no worry and no fear, only tranquility. The dome of night above wraps you in a cocoon of stars and silence. You might notice the outlines of familiar constellations beginning to take shape, patterns of stars that have guided and inspired countless dreamers before. They twinkle softly, like old friends greeting you after a long day. The earth beneath you is solid and steady, holding you gently while you gaze upward. You feel the cool ground supporting your body, grounding you securely. In this moment, there's nowhere else you need to be. Just here, beneath the opening night, cradled between the steady earth and the infinite sky. Time moves slowly now. The hurried pace of the day has faded away with the sunlight. In its place comes a softer rhythm, the low chorus of crickets perhaps, or the distant whisper of a breeze through leaves. Your heartbeat finds a calm, steady pace, matching the peaceful tempo of the night. This is the hour of simplicity and wonder. Above, the first bright star of evening, perhaps not a true star at all, but a planet, catches your eye, sparkling a little brighter than the rest. It reminds you that night on Earth is not an ending, but a continuation of nature's cycle. Daylight had its time to shine, and now it gently yields to the quiet majesty of the cosmos overhead. As you lie there or sit quietly, you can sense the earth itself, breathing in the cool of night. The warmth of the day is releasing from the ground and the stones, rising in faint waves that mingle with the night air. A gentle mist might form in low-lying areas, silvered by starlight, Earth's way of sighing in contentment as it cools. All of it is part of the planet's way of easing into rest. Your eyes gradually adjust, letting you see more detail in the darkness. The faint band of the Milky Way reveals itself. A gauzy river of star glow strewn across the sky. It's a subtle reminder of how vast our galaxy is, yet how intimately connected you are to it, just by looking up from your home planet. Under this sky, you feel at home and at peace. Night unfolds not abruptly, but slowly, like the petals of a nocturnal flower opening in darkness. A quiet magic grows with it, the kind you might remember feeling as a child when you saw the first star of the night and made a wish. Here and now, bathed in soft starlight, you allow the worries of the day to drift far away. They seem so small beneath this expansive heaven. Earthly concerns melt into the night's serenity. Your mind becomes as clear as the darkening sky, and your breath as steady as the turning earth. This is the gentle beginning of a much larger journey, a journey that starts right here, beneath familiar skies at nightfall. For now, simply enjoy the comfort of night's arrival. Let the darkness wrap around you like a loving lullaby. The universe above is vast, but you are safe here on Earth, watching its silent story unfold. The day has ended, but a new exploration is just beginning under the stars. In this peaceful darkness, you feel safe and at ease, nestled in the night's embrace, and quietly eager for the journey ahead. High above you arches Earth's atmosphere, an invisible ocean of air reaching to the edge of space. During the day, it was a bright blue sky, busy with sunlight, clouds, and activity. But now, in the gentle stillness of night, this ocean of air grows calm and clear. It's as if the atmosphere itself is resting after the long day, becoming a quiet window opening onto the cosmos. Through this peaceful, transparent air, the stars shine down unhindered, and you can gaze up into the depths of space beyond. This atmosphere is our home's comforting blanket. It protects and envelops everything on Earth, even as it quietly settles at dusk. In the heat of the day, winds might have blown and clouds might have danced across the sky. Yet as the evening deepens, those winds soften to a faint whisper or cease altogether. The clouds, if any remain, turn from bright gold to gentle grey and then slip away, leaving the sky open and serene. The air becomes still and cool, as though it too is taking a deep, slow breath. You take a slow breath of your own, feeling the night air fill your lungs. It's fresh and mild, carrying perhaps a subtle hint of moisture or the scent of leaves and distant rain. As you exhale, you release any remaining tension, letting it dissolve into the open night. You are breathing in harmony with the world around you now, a world that is settling, relaxing, ready for rest. Each inhalation draws in the calm of this darkening hour. Each exhalation lets go of the day's busy energy. In the quiet, you may hear how the nighttime air changes the sounds that reach you. Perhaps there's the far-off murmur of a creek, or the faint rustle of leaves if a small breeze stirs them, or maybe nothing but silence. At night, sound travels differently in the cool, still air, softer, slower, like a lullaby carried gently to your ears. The atmosphere that roared with noise under the daytime sun now carries only peaceful, muted sounds. Consider how this ocean of air hugs our planet. It's not endless. It's a thin shell around the Earth, though from where you sit it feels huge and boundless. Right now, beneath it, you are like a diver at the bottom of a calm sea, looking up toward the surface, which is the starry sky. The upper edge of this airy ocean is far above, gradually thinning until it gives way to the silence of space. But here, where you are, at the very bottom of that vast sky ocean, the air is dense and rich enough to breathe easily, to feel on your skin, to carry the fragrance of night. Maybe there's a hint of recent rain in the smell of the soil, or the sweetness of grass, or the delicate perfume of blossoms that bloom after dusk. All day long, this atmosphere protected you from the harshness of space, filtering sunlight, shielding you from tiny meteors and cosmic rays, giving clouds a playground and birds a realm to fly. Now in the night, it continues its gentle guardianship, holding warmth near the ground so you stay comfortable as the world cools. If you look toward the horizon, you might notice a faint glow or a gentle gradient of color remaining, a last memory of sunlight captured by high atmosphere, painting the sky in deep blue or purple low above the land. It's like a distant echo of daylight, softly fading as night takes over completely. This air you breathe has been shared by countless beings through time. With each breath out, you give back to the atmosphere. With each breath in, you receive what it offers. There is unity in this simple act. As the day's warmth radiates away into the sky, you might even see a light mist gathering close to the ground, or feel dew beginning to form on cool grass. The air is balancing now, cooling and condensing the excess of the day. It's nature's way of whispering that it's time to slow down. You breathe in again and catch the subtle perfume of the night. Perhaps some flowers have chosen this moment to release their fragrance. Jasmine or honeysuckle, blooming under the stars and filling the air with a sweet, gentle scent. In the quiet darkness, this fragrance carries far, not overwhelmed by any daytime bustle. It drifts to you on the faintest breeze, a soft lullaby for your senses. The aroma is soothing and nostalgic, stirring peaceful memories, or simply reassuring you that all is well. Along with the cool air and the hush of the evening, the night's delicate scents invite you to relax even more deeply, to become one with the stillness around you. Up above, if a star seems to twinkle, it's because slight currents in the upper atmosphere are gently bending its light. Even in its calm, the air still moves a little, alive in its own subtle way. But those movements now are soft and benign, like the slow turning of a sleeping giant. Far from the gusts and gales of midday, the night air caresses the world with barely a stir. Sometimes, on an especially clear night, far from city lights, you might notice a faint band of light overhead, a hint of the Milky Way, or a dim glow along the horizon from countless stars or distant galaxies. The atmosphere is so transparent and untroubled now that it allows even these delicate lights to reach your eyes. It reminds you how thin the veil is between our world and the vast universe beyond. Yet despite the thinness of this veil, it provides everything we need. At this moment, It offers the perfect balance, open enough to let your mind drift to the stars, yet present enough to cradle your body with each breath you take. This is Earth's gift, an ocean of air that allows us to dream under an open sky while still feeling safe and nurtured. As the last traces of daylight vanish, the air itself becomes almost invisible. You might even forget it's there as you peer upward, because nothing obstructs your view of the cosmos. But when you close your eyes for a moment, you can feel it again. The slight coolness on your cheeks, the gentle pressure of life-giving atmosphere all around you, like a soft embrace. The day has truly quieted now. Our ocean of air is at peace, carrying only the whispers of nighttime. In this calm, you feel both grounded and free at once. Grounded by the air filling your lungs and the solid earth beneath you. Free to let your thoughts wander among the stars above. The bustling hours of the world have drifted into memory, and all that remains is this: the hush of night and the comforting atmosphere that cradles you. In this quiet, supported by Earth's gentle air, you are ready to explore further into the mysteries that lie beyond the sky, secure in knowing that the breath of home will always be here with you. Your gaze drifts to a gentle light in the sky that has guided night travelers for ages. The moon. There she is, our eternal companion, hanging quietly above the horizon. Perhaps tonight she is a slender crescent, like a delicate cradle of light. Or maybe she's a bright half circle, or even full and glowing with a serene silver radiance. Whatever her phase, the moon's glow is soft and soothing, a reflection of the sun's light, mellowed by distance and given to the night as a gentle gift. Notice how the moonlight softly illuminates the world around you. It casts faint bluish shadows of trees and rocks, turning the landscape into a tranquil dreamscape. If you lift your hand, you might see the pale outline of your fingers in that silvery glow. Moonlight has a magical quality, bright enough to see by, but tender enough not to overwhelm the darkness. It's as if the moon understands that nighttime is meant for rest, so she provides just a touch of light, a reassurance that you are not alone under this sky. For countless generations, the moon has been a keeper of time for life on Earth. Long before mechanical clocks or printed calendars, people only had to look up to know the month's progression. From a slim new moon, nearly invisible in twilight, she grows each night to a shining crescent, then to a half moon, and on to a radiant full moon. After reaching that peak of brightness, she gently wanes again, shrinking back to a crescent and eventually disappearing for a few nights, only to be reborn and begin the cycle anew. This slow and steady rhythm, waxing and waning over about 29 nights, is like a heartbeat in the sky, a calm and reassuring pulse that has subtly guided earthly life for ages. You might remember nights of your own life marked by the moon's presence. Perhaps a huge golden moonrise once took your breath away, or a slender crescent hanging low in the west caught your eye. The rest of the moon's face faintly glowing in earthshine, the dim light reflected from our own earth. Each phase has its quiet beauty, and each comes around predictably, a promise that life moves in cycles of light and shadow, yet always continues. Beyond simply giving light, the moon gently influences the earth itself. Far away at the seashores, the oceans are responding to the moon even now. Imagine the tides, those slow, great breaths of the sea. When the moon is overhead or on the opposite side of Earth beneath your feet, her gravity tugs ever so softly on the oceans, drawing the water toward her. The sea rises a little, reaching up under the moon's gentle watch. Along some distant beach at this very moment, waves are lapping a bit farther up the sand, guided by that lunar pull. And as the moon moves along, the waters release and recede, only to be drawn again when she returns. 2 high tides and 2 low tides each day, a steady, soothing rhythm, like Earth's heartbeat answering the moon's quiet call. Even here, away from the shore, the moon's influence is present in subtle ways. The ground beneath you rises and falls by a tiny amount with the tides in the solid earth, and the air too shifts under the moon's gravity. We don't notice these tiny motions in our daily lives, but on some level, all of Earth is dancing with its moon. It's a slow dance that's been going on for billions of years. The moon has been circling Earth since long before any life walked on land, shaping our planet's tilt and seasons, keeping Earth's wobble steady, all in its quiet way. Look up at the moon now, and consider this ancient partnership. The same face of the moon always looks toward us, as if she's watching over the Earth. Over eons, the moon's rotation synchronized with its orbit so perfectly that it turns once on its axis in exactly the same time it takes to orbit Earth once. That's why we always see the same familiar features, the same lunar seas and craters forming the face it shows to us. It's comforting in a way. No matter when you glance up, the moon greets you with the same visage that your ancestors saw when they gazed at the night sky. Those darker grey patches you might discern are the lunar maria, vast plains of ancient solidified lava that early sky watchers poetically called seas. The bright spots are highlands and crater rims catching the sunlight. It's a stark landscape up there, frozen in silence, yet it speaks to us across the quiet distance, telling a story of stability. In the moon's patterns of light and dark, people through the ages have imagined they saw pictures or faces. Perhaps you've noticed it too. A friendly face, gazing down, often called the man in the moon. In other cultures, the same shapes suggest a rabbit, or a mythical lady, or other figures living quietly in the lunar light. These gentle legends make the moon feel even more like a companion. When you see those subtle features on her glowing face, you might sense a kind presence above, as if the moon is watching over the world with a calm, patient smile. The moon also acts as a subtle night clock for living creatures. Many animals and plants tune their activities to the lunar cycle. Perhaps you can imagine corals in the sea, spawning right after a full moon, using her light as a signal, or nocturnal creatures that venture out on darker nights when the moon is new and the sky is moonless, giving them cover of extra darkness. Humans, too, have long been drawn to the moonlight, celebrating harvest moons, planting by lunar calendars, or simply finding inspiration and comfort in her presence. There is a calm wonder in knowing that the moon's phases affect not just tides, but some rhythms of life on Earth, subtly syncing us all to the cosmos. Under the moon's gentle glow, you might feel a connection to the past and future. Think of how many eyes have lifted to this light before yours. Poets, navigators on open seas, farmers in their fields, and children before bed, all tracing the lunar cycle to mark time or find their way. The moon has quietly witnessed all of human history, reflecting sunlight and watching the rise and fall of civilizations below. And through it all, she has kept her faithful schedule without hurry or pause. In this moment, you are part of that grand continuum. The moon's soft light on your face is the same light that shone on ancient forests and old oceans, on the pyramids as they were built, on travelers resting by their campfires. It links you to every night that has ever been and every night yet to come. How small any individual worry becomes under such a perspective. The moon reminds you that changes happen slowly, that darkness can be gentle, and that even as things wax and wane, they often come around again in time. If you close your eyes for a moment, you can almost sense the slight tug of the moon, like a reassuring hand guiding the earth along its path. And when you open them and see her up there, you know she'll be continuing her journey across the sky tonight, gliding westward and eventually setting, then tomorrow night, rising a bit later and in a slightly different place, continuing that eternal loop. Our moon is a beacon of consistency and calm. As you rest under the night sky, notice how her presence makes the darkness friendlier. The stars may be far and countless, but the moon is near, a piece of earth that broke away eons ago and now lights our nights. In her glow, you feel comfort and companionship. She is the night's gentle lantern, keeping time and casting a tender light so we can dream. Bask for a few moments in this lunar serenity. Let the moon's ancient, patient energy wash over you. Her cycle moves slowly, reminding you there is no need to rush. In the same way that she will become full in her own time. Whatever is growing in your life will grow at its own pace. And just as she becomes new and hidden for a time, so too can you embrace moments of quiet and rest before emerging again. Everything in nature has its rhythm, and here under the moon, you are perfectly in tune with these gentle cycles. When you're ready, let your eyes drift from the moon and back to the multitude of stars around her. The moon will continue her watch, but now your attention can wander farther. Beyond our lovely satellite, more wanderers and stories await in the night sky. With the moon's comfort in your heart, you feel prepared to explore them, knowing she will be there, quietly marking time as you journey onward. Now, as your eyes roam across the starry canvas, you notice that not all the lights above are the same. Among the countless stars, a few standout lights have a special steadiness to their glow. These are the wanderers of the sky, the planets. To ancient observers, they appeared as bright stars that moved in their own unique way, wandering slowly night after night against the backdrop of the fixed stars. In fact, the word planet itself comes from an old Greek word for wanderer. And here they are now, quietly roaming the darkness along with us, each on its own path through the heavens. Perhaps you recall that first bright star that emerged as the sky darkened, the one that shone especially bold in the twilight. If you see such a beacon low in the west after sunset, chances are you're looking at Venus, often called the evening star. Venus is not a star at all, but our neighbouring planet, wrapped in clouds and reflecting sunlight so brilliantly that it outshines almost everything in the night sky. She lingers in the fading colours of dusk, a faithful herald of night's arrival when she is visible. Gazing at Venus, you sense her gentle, steady light, one that doesn't twinkle much compared to the stars. That steadiness is a clue. The planet's light travels through the same atmosphere as starlight, but because planets are closer and appear as tiny disks rather than pinpoints, their light isn't as easily disturbed by air currents. So they shine with a more constant glow, as if they know we're watching and want to offer reassurance. There are other wanderers visible too, depending on the hour and season. Higher in the sky, you might spot a creamy white dot that shines with a calm, regal presence. That could be Jupiter, the largest of our planets, making its slow journey through the constellations. Or perhaps you notice a faintly reddish star-like point. That one might be Mars, our neighbouring world known for its rust-coloured deserts. Mars doesn't always appear very bright. Only when Earth and Mars draw closer in their orbits does Mars glow a bold orange-red, like a tiny ember hanging among the stars. And maybe, if you're lucky, and the night is dark enough, you might catch Saturn too, a golden pinprick of light farther out, taking its time as it drifts leisurely against the starry background. All these planets share a common pathway across the sky. Imagine an invisible line that stretches from the eastern horizon to the west, tilted gently relative to the ground, passing through the places where the sun rises and sets. This is the highway of the solar system projected above us, known as the ecliptic. It's the plane of Earth's orbit around the sun, and roughly the orbit of the other planets. So from our viewpoint, the sun, moon, and planets all travel along this broad path in the sky. If you trace the moon's position tonight and the positions of those bright planet points, you'll find they form a graceful arc overhead, never straying far north or south of that band. It's comforting in a way, knowing that even in the vastness of space, there is an order, a shared road that our celestial neighbours follow. Take a moment to scan the sky from the west where the sun set, all the way to the east where the moon may be rising. Along this imaginary ribbon lie the zodiac constellations, the clusters of stars that form the backdrop for the planet's wanderings. You might recognize a few of them, perhaps the curve of Scorpius or the twinkling outline of Leo, depending on the time of year. Each planet, as it journeys, passes through these constellations slowly, as if visiting old friends along its route. Our ancestors watched these travels closely. They knew, for example, that Venus never strays far from the sun's vicinity and appears either in the evenings after sunset or in the dawn before sunrise. Mars, on the other hand, roams more freely and sometimes disappears behind the sun for long stretches, only to return on the opposite side of the sky months later. Ancient sky watchers gave each wanderer its own character. Fast-moving Mercury, darting close to the sun and often hard to spot. Bright Venus, gracefully appearing and disappearing. Mars, with its occasional backward loops that puzzled observers as it seemed to reverse direction for a time. Jupiter, stately and patient. And Saturn slower and more distant, marking the outer bounds of the known planets for millennia. Indeed, their very names echo those ancient impressions. Mercury, swift and elusive, was named after the fleet-footed messenger of the gods. Venus, shining so brilliantly, took her name from the goddess of love and beauty. Reddish Mars was named for the god of war, fitting its blood-hued light. Jupiter, the giant planet, was named for the king of the gods, reflecting its bright, kingly presence as the greatest wanderer in the night after Venus. And Saturn, slow and far, was named after an ancient god of time and harvest, lingering at the edge of the visible sky. These names have endured through history, a quiet testament to how closely our ancestors observed these moving lights and wove stories around them. As you gaze at the planets now, think of them not just as lights, but as places. Each one is a world unto itself, reflecting the sun's light from its own unique surfaces and clouds. They are like siblings of Earth in the family of the sun. Even though you're firmly on Earth, with a bit of imagination, you can feel a kinship with those other worlds. That steady glow from Jupiter or Venus isn't just a point of light. It's a sign of a distant landscape under alien skies. a world with its own winds, rocks, and clouds. Notice how the wanderers align in a rough line across the sky. If the moon is visible, she likely joins them on that line, further highlighting the ecliptic path. It's as if the solar system has laid out a track in the heavens, and the planets move along it at their own gentle pace. If you could draw a curved line through the moon and each bright planet you see, you would be sketching the plane of our solar neighborhood. From your vantage point on Earth, lying comfortably under this night sky, you have a front row seat to a grand celestial parade. Imagine how, over the course of tonight, each planet will drift a little westward as Earth turns, eventually setting and making way for others to rise later. But relative to the starry background, their own true motion is much slower, a patient gliding through the constellations. There's no rush up there. Jupiter takes nearly 12 years to make one loop through all the constellations and return to where it started. Saturn takes nearly 30 years. Even swift Mercury, zipping around the sun in just 88 days, appears in our skies only briefly at dawn or dusk for a few weeks at a time, hinting at its quick lapse around our star. Think of the ecliptic as the gentle incline of our perspective on the solar system. When you tilt your head along that plane, you align yourself with the flat disk of planets orbiting the sun. In a way, it's like lying back on a hill to watch a road that runs across the distance. Except here, the road is in space, and the travelers are entire worlds. And you, a fellow traveler on Earth, can watch and feel part of their silent fellowship under the stars. Humans throughout time have felt this same quiet connection with the wanderers. On clear nights, people have pointed out the bright dot of Venus or the faint red spark of Mars to one another, tracking their slow progress with curiosity and wonder. Right now, you are part of that ageless tradition of sky gazing. The planets continue on their paths, steady and sure. Their presence overhead adds depth and dimension to the night, reminding you that even as our own world turns, there are other worlds moving through the darkness, each following the simple, profound laws that bind them to the sun. Every so often, these wandering lights draw near each other in the sky. Two planets might appear side by side for a time, in what astronomers call a conjunction. It's like a gentle meeting between travelers on the celestial road before they part ways again. When you witness such a sight, perhaps Jupiter and Venus shining together in the twilight, or the moon coming to rest near Mars on a quiet evening, it feels like a small, cosmic gathering arranged just for you. These meetings last only a night or two, but their memory lingers, reminding you that the wanderers share not just a path, but moments of closeness in our sky. Such graceful unions have inspired wonder since ancient times, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, beautiful coincidences bring distant worlds together in our view. With the moon and these planets as your companions, the night feels even more alive and welcoming. They guide your eyes across the dome of stars, showing you the way along that invisible highway in the sky. You could almost reach out a hand and trace their route among the stars, feeling that sweeping curve where each bright wanderer will travel. It's a pathway that invites you to follow in thought, to leave Earth's surface in your mind, and stroll among the planets. And indeed, as you grow more at ease, you may find your thoughts already beginning to travel that path, preparing to venture beyond our home, following the same road that these celestial wanderers take across the sky. Over the course of a single night, the stars slowly wheel above you as Earth turns on its axis. But there is an even larger rhythm at play, one that unfolds over weeks and months. As Earth travels around the Sun in its yearly orbit, the night sky subtly changes. New constellations come into view, while others slip beyond the horizon, only to return when their season comes again. These are the seasons of starlight, a grand cycle that extends the comforting predictability of time into the realm of years. Picture the difference between a winter night and a summer night. On a crisp winter evening, the air is cold and clear. High above, you might see Orion the Hunter, with his belt of 3 stars shining brightly. Nearby, Sirius, the brightest star in Earth's sky, sparks like an icy diamond in the frosty air. The winter sky has its own character, sharp, bright stars that seem to twinkle in the still, chilly darkness. Now imagine a warm summer night. The air is soft and balmy. Instead of Orion, you find the Milky Way arching overhead, a misty river of light made of countless distant stars. The summer triangle, 3 bright stars from 3 constellations, stands high above, and the sky is filled with a subtle milky glow from the dense star clouds of our galaxy. The summer night feels expansive and rich with stars, different in mood from winter's crystal clarity. Each season brings its own familiar tapestry of constellations, a sky that becomes an old friend, marking the passage of the year. This gradual shift of the heavens is caused by our Earth's journey around the Sun. As we orbit, the Sun's apparent position against the background stars moves a little each day. That means our night side of Earth faces a slightly different direction in space as the months go by. The stars you see tonight in the east at a given hour will be a bit higher and further west a month from now at the same hour, making way for new stars to rise in the east later at night. It's as if Earth, in its orbit, is turning the page of a celestial calendar. It happens so gently that from one night to the next, you hardly notice. The changes reveal themselves only when you look back over weeks, or look forward to the coming season. There is wonderful reassurance in this cycle. Just as the moon's phases repeat and day reliably gives way to night, the progression of constellations is steadfast. The stars that vanish in the glow of sunset during one season will return to the east in another season's night sky. If there's a favorite constellation you can't see this month, you know that with a little patience, in due time, it will rise again and grace the night once more. Under these stars, generation after generation has planted crops, set festivals, and told stories, using the seasonal sky as a guide. For instance, the annual appearance of the Pleiades star cluster in the pre-dawn sky signaled to some cultures that harvest time was near. The rising of Sirius just before the sun, the dog days, marked the flooding of the Nile in ancient Egypt. The sky and earth are linked by these cycles. The heavens turn as the earth yields its seasons, and both dance to the tune of the year. While Earth's one-year orbit brings the stars on a yearly schedule, the planets add their own longer rhythms to the night. Remember Jupiter and Saturn, those distant wanderers? They move so slowly through the constellations that they create a kind of multi-year season of their own. Jupiter will spend about a year in one zodiac constellation before moving along to the next. If Jupiter gleams among the stars of Aquarius this year, next year it will shine in Pisces, and so on. In about 12 years, it completes a grand loop through all the backdrop stars and returns to Aquarius again. A dozen-year celestial cycle come full circle. Saturn, more patient still, takes nearly 30 years to make its journey through all the constellations. Think about that. The starry background tonight that Saturn is set against will slowly change, and roughly 30 years from now, Saturn will be back in the same part of the sky it graces now. Someone perhaps not even born yet will someday look up and see Saturn near the same stars you see it near tonight, after it has made one long circuit. Even beyond Saturn, the outer planets like Uranus and Neptune move on vaster schedules, so slow that their positions shift only gradually over decades. They take human lifetimes, and more, to complete a single orbit of the Sun. We need not follow them closely to feel their presence. It's enough to know that they are out there, tracing their slow, silent paths year after year. Their journey is so gradual, it's like a deep cosmic hum, too low and slow for us to perceive directly, but always there, underpinning the more immediate rhythms of moon and year that we see. All these cycles, Earth's daily rotation, the moon's monthly phases, Earth's yearly orbit, and the planet's multi-year treks, layer upon one another to form the magnificent clockwork of the sky. And yet, despite so much movement, the night sky feels peaceful and still to us. That's because these movements are measured and smooth. There are no sudden jumps or changes. A star doesn't pop out of place one night, nor does a planet streak randomly across the sky. Everything proceeds with grace and patience, following laws of nature that have held for billions of years. On any given night like this one, you are seeing a snapshot of that cosmic clockwork. The positions of everything, stars, moon, planets, are exactly where they need to be for this moment in time. If you come out tomorrow at the same hour, they will have shifted just a bit, predictably, gently. Over longer spans, the shift accumulates, and we notice a new season taking shape, or a planet appearing in a different part of the sky. But at no point is the change chaotic. It's always a gentle unfolding, like a story that continues from chapter to chapter naturally. There's something deeply calming about realizing how reliable these cosmic patterns are. Our lives can be full of surprises and change, but the sky offers a comforting contrast. The star that rises in the east tonight will rise a few minutes earlier next week, and earlier still the week after, until months from now it becomes a star of the high evening sky. Then eventually it will set with the sun and vanish, only to return to the mornings and then the evenings again in a year's time. The planet that you see in one constellation this year will gradually drift to the next, and in time, return to where it started. These cycles have gone on long before we were here to notice, and will continue long after we're gone, linking past, present, and future under the canopy of the stars. Even the stars themselves are moving in their own slow dance around the center of our galaxy. The familiar constellations will change shape ever so slightly over thousands of years. In the span of many human lifetimes, though, they appear essentially constant. To us, they stand as eternal, steady guides, their slow changes imperceptible on a human scale, reassuring us that some things stay beautifully the same. As you lie under the stars now, perhaps you can sense that slow march of time, not in a way that makes you anxious, but the opposite, a feeling that life's changes are part of a natural cadence. The stars above have watched over Earth through countless seasons, witnessing everything yet remaining serenely constant in their courses. In their steady patterns, they teach the value of patience and perspective. Moments of difficulty or worry in our lives are like brief clouds passing across an otherwise steady sky. The underlying stars and cycles remain, enduring and dependable. Even knowing that the stars themselves will shift over millennia is oddly comforting. They change on a scale so vast that to us they are practically fixed. It means that as we look up tonight, we see almost the same night sky as our distant ancestors did, and as our descendants will. There is a continuity there, a promise that the cosmos won't spring any surprises on us out of the blue. Imagine for a moment the Earth itself as seen from far away, a small blue orb circling its star, tilting ever so slightly to bring about seasons, spinning like a top to bring day and night. From that distant vantage, all our days and years blur into a steady rhythm. Here on Earth's surface, we experience that rhythm as the changing sky above, a sky that is always in motion, yet in a way that feels stable and sure. Allow this realization to wash over you. You are part of something vast and beautifully ordered. The same forces that turn the seasons and guide the planets also flow through your life, linking you to the cosmos. Just as we trust that spring will follow winter, and that each night the familiar stars will wheel overhead, you can trust that many things in life have their cycles and renewals. There's always another dawn, another moonrise, another spring. Under this canopy of stars, with Earth carrying you steadily on its journey around the sun, you can truly relax. The universe isn't in a hurry. Everything unfolds in its time. In the face of the cosmos's immense timescales, you can let go of any remaining sense of rush or pressure. Right now, all that matters is this gentle night, these ancient stars above, and the slow, reassuring dance of the heavens. You have journeyed through the cycles of earth and sky tonight. From the Earth's rotation, bringing on nightfall, to the moon's orbit, bringing its phases, to Earth's orbit, bringing the change of seasons, and outward to the planets, tracing their great loops through the sky. The scale of time has stretched out before you like a calm sea, each wave a larger rhythm than the last. Here, at the brink of a new exploration, you feel ready to take the next leap, to step beyond the confines of Earth's surface in your imagination and touch the space that lies among those stars and planets. Before you do, take a moment to appreciate the ground you're coming from, the home that has carried you through all these cycles. Earth is our cradle in the cosmos, and its rhythms have gently cradled you to sleep countless nights. In that comfort, you prepare to drift further, knowing the steady beat of creation will always guide you back home when you need it. Now the time has come to gently leave the Earth, not in a roaring rocket with flame and thunder, but with the quiet power of your mind and breath. You remain comfortably where you are, but your awareness will take flight. If you like, you can close your eyes now, allowing the vivid imagery of this journey to blossom in the darkness behind your eyelids. Take a slow, deep breath in, and as you exhale, feel your body lighten. With that soft release of breath, imagine you are letting go of the day's weight, the weight of gravity itself. Another deep breath in and out, and you're floating, ever so gently, just above the ground. In your mind's eye, see yourself rising slowly from the place where you were resting. The ground is drifting away beneath you. Perhaps you see the spot where you were lying, a quiet patch of grass, or your own backyard, growing a little smaller below. You feel no fear, only a calm wonder. The night air seems to lift you like an invisible cushion. You drift upward, past the swaying treetops that whisper in the night breeze. If there are trees below, their dark silhouettes shrink and spread out. Any houses or roads become tiny and distant, the lights of windows or street lamps twinkling like little stars on the ground. Higher and higher you rise at a leisurely, soothing pace. There's absolutely no rush. You might slowly turn or roll in the air, taking in the expanding view around you. The horizon extends farther with each meter you ascend. What was once familiar ground widens into a patchwork of sleeping land. If you were above a town, its lights now form a gentle lattice below, a sprinkling of gold on a dark canvas. If you were in open country, you now see a quilt of moonlit fields and dark woods, perhaps the glint of a river snaking quietly through the terrain. The sounds of the world fade away. Maybe you still catch the distant bark of a dog, or the murmur of a last car on a far-off road. But those sounds soon dissolve into the background. Up here, there is mostly silence, just the soft whoosh of your breath and the faint thump of your heart, reassuring and steady. These sounds of your own living body keep you company and grounded, even as you float. As you continue your gentle ascent, you pass through a layer of wispy clouds, if any have gathered tonight. They part for you easily, offering no resistance. A cool mist brushes your face for a moment, then you emerge above it. Looking down, any clouds below appear as a soft, glowing blanket, lit from above by moonlight. It's like gazing at a silvery quilt laid over the dark land. Small gaps in the cloud cover reveal patches of the world beneath, perhaps the sparkle of a lake or clusters of lights where towns lie. The cloud blanket is peaceful and still, glowing faintly under the night sky. Above the clouds, the sky is darker, and the stars shine even brighter. The higher you float, the thinner the air becomes around you, until it feels as though you're gliding through a serene vacuum. Yet you find that you can still breathe comfortably. In this journey of the mind, you carry the fresh air of Earth with you like a protective aura. With each slow inhale, you draw in confidence and calm. With each easy exhale, you let go of anything that might hold you back, freeing yourself to explore further. Now you notice the curvature of the Earth beginning to show itself. Far in the distance, the horizon that once seemed flat now gently bends, the edge of our planet. The colour of the sky overhead deepens from midnight blue to black velvet, sprinkled with stars brighter than any you've seen from the ground. Along one part of the horizon, where night is meeting the day on Earth, you see a faint glow, a band of deep indigo or royal blue lining the curve of the world. It's the edge of dawn or dusk far away, a hint that sunlight is not so far beyond the horizon. It's a gentle reminder that the sun still shines just out of sight, ready to bring morning in a few hours. But for now, it leaves this side of the world in restful darkness. Looking down, the Earth unfolds below you like a living map. You might make out the outlines of coastlines traced in silver if moonlight reflects off the water, or the soft sparkles of city lights forming constellations of their own on land. Those clusters of light dotting the dark are cities and towns, connected by faint, glimmering threads where highways or populated valleys lie. Between and around them stretch vast areas of darkness, perhaps forests, mountains, or wide open plains sleeping under the night, largely free of human light. Occasionally, you might catch a silent flicker from below, the illumination of a far-off storm cloud flashing with lightning. From up here, it's just a muted pulse of light on the cloud tops, like the flicker of a distant candle, so far away that no thunder can reach you. It's strangely comforting to see nature's fireworks playing out in slow motion far beneath your feet, while you drift in perfect calm above it all. And toward Earth's far northern horizon, a soft green glow begins to ripple at the edge of night, a silent dance of light. The aurora borealis, the northern lights, are unfolding in ghostly curtains above the pole. From this perspective, the aurora is a delicate veil of emerald and violet light waving near the Earth's upper atmosphere. You watch its gentle, rippling glow outlining the curve of the planet, a final, quiet spectacle of Earth's atmosphere. On the ground, it might be a breathtaking display across the sky, but from space, it is like a faint, ethereal ribbon decorating the polar night. You observe its slow, silent pulsations for a moment, a last beautiful gift from Earth's sleeping side. Then it fades from view as you continue rising, and all is calm again. As you go higher, the thin shell of atmosphere that hugs Earth becomes visible as a delicate halo. A faint blue rim encircles the planet's edge, especially where the sun's light is just beyond. An exquisite, fragile glow separating Earth from the void. That is our atmosphere, the same blanket of air you were breathing moments ago. From up here, you see how slender it truly is against the vastness of space, and yet it was enough to cradle and protect all life. A feeling of gratitude and wonder fills you at this sight. Now you are drifting in low Earth orbit, silently soaring above the planet. There is no more up or down in the usual sense, only the globe below and the expanse of space around you. You feel weightless, as if floating in a gentle dream. Your body feels completely free of pressure and weight. Every muscle is loose and relaxed, no longer working against gravity. It's as if you're floating in warm water, but even lighter. Nothing at all is pulling you down. A wave of lightness and relief spreads through your entire being, a release of all tension you didn't even know you were holding. The silence here is profound, broken only by the soft rhythm of your breathing and the faint pulse of your heartbeat. Sounds that remind you that you are safe and alive in this moment. You are calm and free, a small, cozy presence in a great expanse. And yet you do not feel lost or insignificant. The Earth below is a reassuring sight, a great, beautiful sphere that is home. And even as it slowly turns beneath you, it remains your anchor in the vastness. From this vantage point, you can see half the world at once. Night covers much of it, but along the curving edge of Earth, the line of dawn is starting to glow. Far in the distance, on the horizon of the planet, a sliver of sunlight creates a gentle arc of gold. Morning is arriving in those regions, though it's still night where you float. The glow is delicate and doesn't diminish the restful darkness on your side of the world. Down below in that darkness, the sprinkled lights of cities mirror the stars in the sky, as if the ground and the heavens are reflecting one another. Take a moment to appreciate the beauty of your home planet from here. The Earth, in this quiet moment, looks peaceful and fragile. All the noise and bustle of daily life are invisible at this scale. You see only a world calmly turning in the night, accented by the faint lights of human villages and the soft glow of clouds in moonlight. The sheer scale of it all makes any concerns you left behind feel tiny and distant now. You can just let them go. They belong to that world down there. And right now you are floating in a space between worries, in a sanctuary of stillness and stars. You turn slowly in space, perhaps doing a gentle somersault, and behold the sky around you in every direction. The stars are no longer just above you. They encircle you on all sides, shining with a steady, unwavering light. Without the atmosphere's interference, they don't twinkle at all. They are constant. You even notice their subtle colours now, Some stars are tinged blue or white, others glow golden or softly red, each shining with its own character and warmth. They appear like tiny, steadfast lanterns placed throughout the cosmos. The Milky Way arches around you as a glorious band of diffuse light. You realize that band is the combined glow of millions of distant stars in our home galaxy, seen from within. Here, floating in space, you truly feel part of the Milky Way, part of the universe, in a deeper way than ever. Not far off, a small, silent shape slides across the starlit backdrop, perhaps a satellite, or even the International Space Station, orbiting Earth with its panels gleaming faintly. It drifts by like a friendly firefly, a subtle sign of humanity's presence extending beyond Earth. You watch it quietly vanish into the shadow of the planet, continuing its journey around the globe. Its brief appearance reminds you that you're not completely alone up here. There is a human touch in space, but it was so delicate and distant that it only enhances the tranquility. Now you feel Earth's pull loosening as you decide to drift farther outward. You have the freedom to explore, so you allow yourself to rise even higher, moving beyond Earth's immediate embrace. The blue planet below begins to shrink slightly in your view, though it remains grand and majestic. What were once vast continents beneath you now become simply patterns on a sphere. You can see the whirls of weather systems, a broad spiral of clouds over an ocean, or a line of storms stretching across a hemisphere. The dark night side of Earth is now accented by a sprinkle of city lights, and the day side, just coming into view along the edge, is a marble of white clouds, blue ocean, and brown-green land. Beside Earth, you notice the moon in the distance, a pale, pearl-grey disk catching the sunlight. From where you float now, you see the moon off to one side, steadily orbiting our world. It looks smaller than it did from Earth, yet shines more starkly, half illuminated by the sun and half in shadow. You remember looking up at that moon from the ground not long ago. Now you are almost sharing its perspective, gazing at Earth from a closer vantage. In your mind, you send a little wave to this old friend. It's reassuring to see it out here, a familiar companion in the vastness, bound to Earth just as we are. You drift farther, leaving even the orbit of the moon behind. Earth and its moon now lie together in the expanse behind you, a blue jewel and its softly glowing satellite hanging against the black curtain of space. Perhaps you pause here a moment, hovering in peaceful silence, to marvel at the sight. The Earth rotates slowly, and you see a bit more of the sunlit side coming into view as time passes. The moon continues its slow circuit around Earth. This vision of the Earth-Moon duo is serene and majestic, and you soak in its beauty and significance. Out here, between Earth and the rest of the solar system, the sun's presence becomes stronger. You are still far from the sun, nearly 150 million kilometers away, but without Earth's atmosphere, or the shade of Earth itself, you can sense the sun's rays more clearly. It appears as a brilliant star off in the distance, too bright to look at directly for long, but its warm glow spills across space, lighting one side of your body with a gentle heat. You feel the sun's energy on you, a reminder of the life-giving light that powers everything back on Earth. Ahead of you, somewhere in that starry vista, lie the inner planets and the sun itself, the core of our solar system, beckoning you onward. Perhaps, if you look toward the sun's general direction, with your eyes shielded in your imagination, you can spot a couple of bright pinpoints not far from the sun's glare. Those could be Venus and Mercury, appearing as morning stars from your perspective, waiting for your visit. Right now, they are just bright dots against the deep black, but you know each is a world with its own character and landscape, and soon you will drift their way. Behind you, the Earth continues to shrink, though it remains beautifully visible. A bright blue marble adorned with swirling white clouds and capped with the white of polar ice. You carry the memory of its comfort with you, the feel of the air, the sight of the familiar sky, the presence of the moon. That memory lives in your steady breathing, which continues in a slow, calm rhythm. If you listen to your breath now, it's as tranquil as the gentle waves on a nighttime shore, steady and soothing. Each breath reassures you that you remain connected to home, even as you journey outward. You are now sailing through the space between worlds, a vast ocean of calm and darkness dotted with light. The darkness is not frightening, it's velvety and comforting, a space that cradles you, just as the ocean of air once did. Starlight from every direction brushes against you. Each tiny light is a distant sun, many with their own planets, and perhaps their own dreamers, gazing up at their skies. Here in this openness, you feel no pressure, no urgency. Time itself seems to have slowed to the pace of your calm heartbeat. By now, your eyes may feel heavy. If you find yourself drifting towards sleep, you can allow it to happen gently. This journey will continue, even if you doze off. Your mind can keep exploring among the stars while your body rests. There is no need to stay fully awake if sleep comes for you. You are safe, cradled by the universe itself, and you can let go. The calm and wonder will be here for you, whether in waking imagination or in the soft realms of dreams. Simply relax and drift in whatever way feels natural. Ahead of you glints a faint morning star, perhaps Venus, shining welcomingly, and behind you glows the gentle blue of Earth, watching you with its soft light. You float between them, at peace and filled with quiet joy. For now, you simply rest and reflect on how far you've come. Think back to the beginning of this journey tonight, the hush of nightfall on Earth, the cool air on your skin as the stars began to appear, one by one. You remember the moon's gentle glow keeping watch, and the planets twinkling along their path, silently inviting you onward. You recall the moment you began to float, lifting off from the ground, drifting through the clouds as the world below grew silent and small. With each breath and each passing minute, you travelled further, from lying on the familiar Earth to climbing into the starry sky, and then into space itself. All those peaceful steps have brought you here, to this sanctuary between worlds. You carry the calm of each stage of the journey with you, a treasure of tranquility gathered from the earth and sky alike. Let this feeling linger as our journey under the stars comes to a gentle pause for now. You are floating free, embraced by starlight and anticipation, utterly relaxed. The exploration will continue, and you will gently flow with it, carrying the comfort of home with you to each new world. For now, you rest in the knowledge that you are a traveller in a friendly cosmos, and many soothing adventures among the planets await you when you are ready to continue. As twilight descends, the western horizon holds on to the last hues of daylight. In that gentle dimming glow, a tiny point of light emerges just above the fading sun's afterglow. This is Mercury, the most elusive of the naked-eye planets, often hiding in the twilight. Many times, it slips away before night truly falls, making only a brief appearance. Yet, for those patient and attentive, Mercury reveals itself as a faint star-like beacon near the horizon, a messenger at the edge of day and night. Catching sight of Mercury can feel like a small, personal discovery. The sky must be just right, not too bright with the sun's glare, not too dark that Mercury has set. In that window of time, usually a short while after sunset or before sunrise, one scans the glowing horizon carefully. A low line of sight, free of obstructions, is essential, since Mercury never climbs high in the sky. It stays close to the sun's path, forever tugged by its parent star's gravity. Observers often have to find a hilltop or shoreline with a clear view to where the sun went down or will rise, and then, with patience, seek a tiny spark appearing low in the twilight. In the pre-dawn stillness, Mercury can play the role of a tiny herald of morning. Before the sun lifts above the horizon, Mercury may briefly grace the eastern sky with its presence. It peeks out in the cold, dark blue dawn, holding a lonely vigil in the place where day will soon break. For those few quiet moments, Mercury is a solitary reminder of the planets that roam around our sun, glowing softly as the world begins to wake. Then, as the eastern horizon brightens and the first light of day washes over, Mercury vanishes again, swallowed by the oncoming sunrise. Even when conditions are perfect, Mercury's appearance is subtle. The colours of dusk, deepening blue overhead and amber near the horizon, provide a serene backdrop. Mercury might first be noticed as a delicate point twinkling in the gold and purple band of twilight. It does not announce itself boldly. It appears quietly, almost shyly, in the aftermath of sunset. There is a certain thrill in that moment of recognition, knowing your eyes have locked onto the innermost planet of our solar system. In that silent instance, you realize you are seeing a world that orbits so close to the sun, revealed to you across tens of millions of miles of space. Yet it looks like just a tiny star peeking out. The ancient astronomers gave this wandering star two names, not realizing it was one object seen at different times. In the morning sky they called it Apollo, and in the evening they called it Mercury or Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger who could dart between the worlds of gods and men. Over time, it became clear that both were the same planet, and the name Mercury, the messenger god, stayed with it. It's a fitting name. Mercury moves swiftly through the heavens from our view. If you watch it night to night during one of its appearances, it shifts position noticeably faster than the other visible planets. In a matter of days, Mercury climbs a bit higher into the twilight, or sinks back toward the sun's glow, living up to the mythic messenger's quick, elusive nature. Legends and historical anecdotes underscore Mercury's trickiness to spot. It's said that Copernicus, the astronomer who placed the sun at the center of the solar system, lamented never seeing Mercury with his own eyes from his homeland. The little planet was always lost in the misty horizon, or the sun's glare during his observing attempts. One can imagine him scanning the sunset afterglow, hoping for a glimpse of the messenger planet, only to be thwarted by fog or Mercury's brief window of visibility. This tale shows how elusive Mercury can be, even for dedicated skywatchers in earlier times. Yet Mercury has been known since antiquity, precisely because diligent observers in many civilizations learned when and where to look. In ancient China, Mesopotamia, Greece, and elsewhere, Mercury was charted as one of the wandering stars. Those observers likely had similar routines. After the sun dipped below the horizon, they would quietly watch the colourful sky, waiting for Mercury. In those moments of stillness, Mercury would glint into view momentarily, low and fast-moving. Perhaps they counted it a small triumph each time they caught Mercury before it vanished. The practice of seeking Mercury at dawn or dusk became a kind of ritual for sky-gazers through the centuries. One can also imagine an ancient stargazer on a warm evening long ago, perhaps a priest astronomer atop a Babylonian ziggurat, or an early Greek scholar on a hill, waiting for Mercury to show itself. In Babylon, records on clay tablets carefully noted Mercury's comings and goings, as the scholars of the time linked celestial movements to earthly affairs. We can picture such an observer squinting at the glowing horizon, heart quickening at the moment Mercury's tiny light finally peeps out. In that era, the appearance of Mercury might have been seen as a portent or a message from the gods, fitting for the messenger planet. The astronomer would mark the date and position, adding it to years of observations etched in tablets, contributing to the first predictive tables of planetary motion. Even then, in those ancient quiet moments, Mercury demanded patience and rewarded those who kept vigil. Watching Mercury is indeed a gentle ritual. Time seems to slow when you're awaiting a tiny planet's appearance. The everyday world grows hushed as you focus on the subtle changes in the sky's light. You might notice the first stars coming out overhead, while still sweeping the horizon for Mercury. Then, just when you think it might not show, a minuscule speck of light pops out near the afterglow's edge. It flickers in and out, vying with the twilight. When at last you fix it in your vision, there is a quiet sense of achievement. For a few minutes, Mercury hangs there, solitary and small against the twilight canvas. It's easy to imagine Mercury itself, skimming the boundary between night and day, carrying messages from the sunlit world into the darkness. Mercury never stays long. Soon it follows the sun below the horizon, or is overwhelmed by the growing light of dawn. Its departure is as quick as its arrival, reinforcing how brief and special each appearance is. This transience makes every sighting a little gift. Mercury appears and disappears on its own terms, and one must meet it on its schedule. That is part of its charm. One cannot force a view of Mercury. One must wait and watch in harmony with its movements. In that sense, observing Mercury teaches patience and attunement to the rhythms of the sky. As Mercury sinks away and twilight deepens into night, one is left with a feeling of connection to a fleeting visitor. The horizon grows dark, and countless distant stars emerge in the deepening night. But you remember that tiny point of light that was Mercury, and it feels like you exchanged a brief greeting with an elusive friend. In the silence that follows sunset, it's almost as if Mercury whispered something in passing, a reminder of the delicate balance between day and night, and the simple joy of witnessing a planet's appearance in the twilight. With that gentle encounter in mind, our attention can turn to other cosmic wanderers, but not before appreciating the little messenger that briefly bridged day and night. Mercury's existence is defined by its closeness to the Sun. It circles the Sun faster than any other planet, completing one swift orbit in just 88 of our days. In that short year, Mercury races along its path, sometimes speeding through space at nearly 50 kilometers every second. This proximity means the Sun looms large and brilliant in Mercury's sky. The sunlight that falls on Mercury is several times more intense than what we feel on Earth, bathing the little planet in a relentless glare when day breaks on its surface. Without a substantial atmosphere to soften the sunshine or spread the warmth, Mercury's surface endures extremes. When the sun is high in Mercury's sky, the ground becomes fiercely hot. A day on Mercury is not like a day on Earth. It stretches on and on. Mercury rotates on its axis only slowly, and combined with its rapid journey around the sun, it produces an unusual rhythm. Under the long daytime sun, surface temperatures soar to levels that can melt lead. There is no air to carry the heat away, and no clouds to offer shade, just the stark, direct heating from the intense sunlight. When night finally comes to Mercury, it comes slowly, and it brings a cold unlike any we experience on Earth's surface. As the sun sinks and the airless sky grows jet black, the heat escapes swiftly from the ground. The same surface that was glowing with warmth in the day cools down to deep cold in the long night. Temperatures plunge hundreds of degrees, down to a frigid silence. With no atmosphere to hold on to the daylight warmth, the land loses heat into the endless void. For weeks of Mercury's long night, the only light would be the stars overhead and the faint shine of planets, including Earth, as points of light in the black sky. If you could stand on Mercury during this night, you'd see the sky ablaze with starlight, unhindered by any air, utterly dark and clear. But the ground beneath your feet would be frozen, having given up the sun's heat into space. Imagine a sunrise on Mercury's barren terrain. The sun's rim peaks over the horizon, not in a quick flash as on Earth, but slowly, as Mercury's spin is leisurely. The sun appears more than 3 times larger than we see from Earth, a huge fiery disk climbing above the cratered plains. As it rises, the sunlight spills into the long shadows of Mercury's countless craters. The ground that was in darkness for so long starts to brighten. Sharp contrasts between brilliant light and inky shadow stretch across the landscape. Every rock and crater rim is illuminated in stark relief, because without an atmosphere, there is no gentle scattering of light. There is only radiance and darkness. Over hours, the sun inches higher, and the illuminated area grows, revealing a landscape that looks much like our moon's, grey, pockmarked with craters, and silent. By noon on Mercury, a harsh brilliance dominates the sky. The sun is an intense white beacon against a canvas of black space. No blue sky softens its glare, because Mercury has only the thinnest of atmospheres, just a trace of particles sputtered off its surface by solar radiation. If you were there, you might need to turn away from the sun's blinding face, and behind you, the sky would remain dark enough to spot bright stars hanging in the void. The ground under the sun's glow shimmers with heat. If you touched a boulder at midday, it would be scorching from hours of solar bombardment. The phrase "frying under the sun" would take on a literal meaning in Mercury's noon. As the extended day wears on, the sun slowly moves across Mercury's sky. Because of Mercury's unique orbital dance, in some locations, the sun might even appear to pause or move backward briefly before continuing its course. A strange quirk caused by Mercury's varying speed when closest to the sun. Eventually, after many Earth days have passed, the sun nears the western horizon. Sunset on Mercury is as drawn out as its sunrise. The enormous glowing sun sinks, once again casting extraordinarily long shadows from every crater wall and boulder. The temperature that had been so high begins to drop rapidly. When the last sliver of the sun vanishes, Mercury is plunged again into an almost airless night. In the permanent darkness of Mercury's polar regions, there are craters that sunlight never touches. These deep craters at Mercury's north and south poles hide shadowed floors that remain frigid, even as the sun broils the rest of the planet. In those eternal shadows, observations suggest deposits of water ice reside, preserved for perhaps millions of years. It's a surprising thought. Ice on the closest planet to the Sun. But Mercury's extremes allow for such paradoxes. Blistering heat in the open sun, and nearby, pockets of ice in perpetual night. Mercury, in its quiet way, holds these secrets in the places where the sun's fierce gaze cannot reach. Mercury's surface is not only defined by craters, but also by great cliffs, or scarps, that run for miles across the terrain. These immense, sinuous cliffs were likely formed as Mercury's hot interior cooled over eons. As the planet's metallic core and mantle contracted slightly, the crust above wrinkled, creating towering escarpments sometimes over a mile high. If you were walking on Mercury, you might encounter one of these giant cliffs rising on the horizon, the result of a global contraction of the little world. One famous scarp, discovered by spacecraft, stretches hundreds of miles long, a testament to Mercury's active geological past, despite its small size. Deep in Mercury's geology lies another surprise: a disproportionately large iron core, making up most of the planet's radius. Scientists believe Mercury's core, relative to its size, is far larger than Earth's. This hints at a violent origin, or early history. Perhaps a collision in the young solar system stripped Mercury of much of its outer rock, leaving it core-heavy. Today, that iron heart has cooled and contracted, contributing to the formation of the surface scarps. Remarkably, Mercury's core is still partially molten and generates a weak magnetic field, a discovery made when the first spacecraft flew past. It's fascinating that this tiny world, so baked by the sun, clings to a magnetic field, something only Mercury and Earth possess among the inner planets. Mercury's north and south poles offer a final intriguing contrast to its hot days and cold nights. In the permanent shadow at the bottom of certain craters near the poles, temperatures never rise above deep freeze. The sun's rays never reach into those pockets of darkness. When Mariner 10 and later NASA's Messenger probe studied Mercury, they detected signs of water ice hidden in those shadowed craters. It's an almost paradoxical thought that ice, perhaps delivered by comet impacts, can persist on the nearest planet to the Sun. These ice deposits are like time capsules, protected by the cold and dark amid a world of fiery heat. If you could descend into one of those polar craters, you would find yourself amid a strange frost under an ink-black sky, while just beyond the crater rim, the sun's brilliance reigns. Throughout these cycles of light and dark, Mercury remains a silent, cratered world, carrying its ancient scars. It has no weather, no seasons in the way Earth does, only the stark alternation between burning day and freezing night. Standing on Mercury, you would feel the profound loneliness of a world so close to the sun's fire, yet so devoid of life and air. Without an atmosphere, there would be no sound at all. You would find yourself in utter silence, with no wind to whisper and no echo of movement, only a heavy stillness under the sun and stars. The horizon would be close by, since Mercury is small, only a bit over a third the size of Earth. The curvature of the planet would be noticeable if you scanned the expanse, with the ground gently falling away into blackness. Mercury's loyalty to the sun defines its character. It swings around our star on a tight leash, the innermost child of the sun's family. Over the course of its quick 88-day year, Mercury keeps cycling from one side of the sun to the other, playing a constant game of hide-and-seek with those watching from Earth. Each time Mercury speeds around the far side of the sun and then comes back into view, it offers us another brief chance to observe its glimmer at dawn or dusk. The swift circles of Mercury's orbit have continued for billions of years, a ceaseless race around the sun. As we reflect on Mercury's harsh yet intriguing nature, we recognize how different it is from our own world. The little planet's endless days and nights, its scorching sunlight and airless calm, create a world of stark beauty and extremes. It remains difficult to visit, even with our eyes, always lingering near the sun's searing light. And yet, we catch sight of it from afar, as that quiet dot in twilight, connecting us to this speedy, scorched world. When Mercury vanishes each time, it is not gone for long. Soon enough, its fast orbit brings it back around for another meeting at the horizon. In modern times, only a couple of spacecraft have visited Mercury. NASA's Mariner 10 flew past in the mid-1970s and showed us Mercury's cratered globe up close, confirming many of the features that ground-based observers had long suspected. Decades later, a dedicated orbiter named Messenger arrived in 2011 and mapped Mercury's surface in its entirety, revealing its geology in detail and confirming the presence of ice in those shadowed craters. Messenger also detected strange hollows, pits on Mercury's surface, possibly formed by volatile elements escaping into space. Despite these advances, Mercury remains a remote and challenging world to explore. It orbits so near the Sun that sending probes is difficult, and it keeps many of its secrets in the quiet and heat, waiting for future missions, like the recently launched Bepi-Colombo spacecraft, to uncover more. Not far beyond Mercury's orbit lies another light in the twilight, one much easier to see and far more brilliant. Leaving behind the innermost world and its dazzling sunrises, our journey now turns to Venus, the second planet from the Sun. Venus emerges in the evening or morning sky like a jewel, beckoning us from the dimming blue. Mercury may be the swift and secretive messenger, but Venus is the radiant lamp of twilight, ready to guide us next. As the first stars peek out at twilight, one light dominates all others. Venus, gleaming in the fading glow of day. Low in the west after sunset, Venus shines like a brilliant beacon against the gentle colours of dusk. Its silvery white light is steady and unmistakable, often visible even before the sky is fully dark. This evening star comes out early, hanging above the horizon as the sun's last rays disappear. For those gazing up at twilight, Venus has an almost magnetic presence. The eye is drawn to that solitary, bright jewel suspended in the evening sky. Venus is so bright that it can catch people by surprise. As darkness deepens, it remains the first point of light to appear, outshining all the true stars. On a clear evening, you might notice Venus, even while the sky is still a deep blue, before any other stars can be seen. It has been mistaken for an airplane or a distant beacon on a hill, only to remain fixed in place, glowing steadily. Unlike the stars, which twinkle from the atmospheric turbulence, Venus often shines with a calm, steady glow. At its peak, Venus is even visible in daylight if you know exactly where to look, appearing as a tiny white dot in the blue sky, a rare sight that attests to its brilliance. For months at a time, Venus graces the evening sky, drifting a little higher or lower each night as it orbits the Sun. There comes a time, however, when Venus sinks closer to the Sun's glow and vanishes from the evening. After it passes behind the Sun, or between the Sun and Earth, it reappears on the other side of dusk and dawn. Now it becomes the morning star, rising in the east before sunrise. Early risers then find Venus waiting for them in the pre-dawn darkness. In the stillness before the break of day, Venus gleams above the eastern horizon, heralding the coming sunrise. It is just as bright in this role, a lone lantern in the cool, dim light of dawn. birds and roosters might be stirring below, but high above, Venus stands watch, shining proudly until the growing morning light washes it from view. For ancient sky watchers, it was not immediately obvious that the morning star and the evening star were the same object. These two apparitions of Venus occur at different times and opposite sides of the sky. One visible after sunset in the west, the other visible before sunrise in the east. Early civilizations often gave them distinct names. The ancient Greeks, for example, called the evening star Hesperos and the morning star Phosphoros, thinking they were two different celestial beings. In some cultures, the morning version of Venus was seen as a herald of dawn and given a name meaning light bringer. Conversely, the evening appearance was called the evening lamp, or given names linked to the gentle onset of night. It wasn't until these cultures studied the sky carefully over time that they realized the two bright stars never appeared simultaneously and were, in fact, one wandering planet, changing its guise. Once people recognized the dual identity of Venus, it became even more fascinating. Here was a single world that could play two roles in our sky, vanishing from one side of the horizon and then making a triumphant arrival on the other side. The Romans named this planet Venus, after their goddess of love and beauty, perhaps inspired by its dazzling appearance. To the human eye, Venus has always been a thing of beauty, a gentle light in the twilight that seemed to embody a kind of celestial grace. The name was fitting. Venus shone with unmatched brilliance and brought a touch of elegance to the dawn and dusk skies. When poets and storytellers spoke of the evening star, they often imbued it with feelings of hope, love, or guidance, reflecting the planet's comforting presence at day's end. Even after people understood that Venus was one planet, its dual behavior continued to inspire. Ancient Greek philosophers like Pythagoras are sometimes credited with realizing that the bright evening and morning stars were one and the same heavenly body. In some tellings, when this understanding dawned, it was a profound moment. The sky was revealed to be more orderly than it seemed, with Venus simply showing different faces in the morning and evening. Later, other civilizations recorded regular observations of Venus to predict its switch from morning to evening. The Mayans, for example, developed detailed tables in their codices to chart Venus's rise and set times, treating its cycle as an essential part of their calendar and astrological lore. Such was Venus's impact. It became a celestial clock hand for predicting time and events. Throughout the year, Venus goes through a graceful cycle in our sky. For about 9 or 10 months, it might dominate the evenings, setting a few hours after the sun at its peak visibility. Then it disappears into the sun's vicinity for a period, lost in the glare. Later, it emerges in the morning, where it can spend another 9 months or so, rising a few hours before the sun when at its best. In each appearance, Venus reaches a maximum distance from the sun as seen from Earth. It never strays across the midnight sky, always staying relatively near the sun's part of the sky. But near is relative. At maximum elongation, Venus can be about 45 degrees away from the sun, enough to remain visible in a fully dark sky for some time after twilight. This means there are evenings when Venus blazes high in a dark sky long after sunset, or mornings when it lingers in darkness until the first orange of dawn. Watching Venus over those weeks and months can be a rewarding, almost meditative experience. In the evening, one might step out each day at twilight to greet the shining star and notice how it changes position slowly. Perhaps it climbs a little higher each week, or grows a touch brighter as it moves closer to Earth in its orbit. We cannot discern its shape without a telescope, but we can notice that Venus tends to glow brightest at certain points in its journey around the Sun, often when it is nearing us in its orbit. Then, as it draws toward the Sun's direction and disappears, an observer knows Venus is transitioning from an evening apparition to a morning one. When Venus returns as the morning star, the cycle of observation can continue in reverse. Day by day, it rises a bit later in the dark hours, inching closer to the time of sunrise. The devoted sky watcher might wake before dawn to catch Venus sparkling above the sleeping world. In those pre-dawn moments, the air is cool and still, with perhaps a silver dew on the grass and a light mist hugging the ground. Above, the brightest stars are beginning to fade, but Venus remains blazing and pure. There is a special quiet at that time, when the world is still dim and hushed, and Venus is at its zenith of brightness. In many ways, seeing Venus in the morning evokes a different emotion than in the evening. In the morning, it can feel like a promise. A bright messenger that day is coming. In the evening, it feels like a gentle guardian, reassuring that night is here, but not dark enough to be frightening. Across different cultures and eras, Venus's dual appearances wove into human customs and law. Some farmers and shepherds would note the evening star as the time to bring animals home or mark the end of the day's labour. The morning star might signal the time to rise and start anew. In tropical or desert lands, travellers waking in the early chill might use the morning star to orient themselves, knowing that bright light in the east meant the sun would soon follow. The cycle of Venus became a natural clock of sorts. The ancient Maya, for instance, tracked Venus's motions meticulously, planning events around its heliacal risings, first appearances, as morning star. They observed how many days Venus stayed invisible, and when it glowed again at dawn, weaving those celestial events into their calendars and mythology. Even without knowing any of the science or orbital mechanics, anyone looking up at Venus can appreciate the steadiness of its pattern. Though it moves from evening to morning, it is never truly gone for long. We lose it on one horizon, only to find it soon on the opposite horizon, as dependable as the sun's own rising and setting. This reliability made Venus a symbol of constancy in the sky. Year after year, generation after generation, people could count on the appearance of that bright star in either the west or the east. We have gazed at it from ancient times until today, seeing the same planet glowing bright and feeling perhaps the same sense of wonder. On rare evenings, both Mercury and Venus can be seen simultaneously, low in the west. Mercury faint and near the horizon, Venus gleaming above. Those who catch such a view feel as if they've been given a special audience with both inner planets at once, a dual blessing in the twilight. It is a striking tableau, the swift messenger and the evening star sharing the sky, one subtle and the other bold. Moments like these drive home the celestial harmony of our solar system, as the two inner worlds perform their dance side by side for a brief time. When you observe Venus tonight as the evening star, you share in a timeless human experience. Countless others before you have paused at dusk to admire that same brilliant light hanging in the twilight. And if you see Venus tomorrow at dawn, you partake in another age-old ritual, witnessing the day's bright herald. In both guises, Venus connects the routines of our earthly life, waking and resting, sunrise and sunset, with the motions of a neighbouring world. It is a quiet reminder of the celestial clockwork that continues above us, beautifully dependable and yet ever engaging to watch. In a small observatory in 1610, Galileo Galilei watched Venus night after night through his newly built telescope. What he saw astonished him. At times, Venus appeared as a tiny round disk. But as weeks passed, that disk changed shape. It began to look like a little quarter moon, and later a slender crescent. The planet was showing phases, much like our moon does. This was a profound secret unveiled. It meant that Venus was orbiting around the Sun, revealing different portions of its daylight side to us over time. Before Galileo's observations, people did not know that the planets could display phases. Venus, to the naked eye, was just a bright point of light, constant in form. But through the telescope, it became clear that Venus isn't always the same from our viewpoint. Galileo observed that when Venus shone brilliantly in the evening sky, it was actually a thin crescent, larger in apparent size, but offering only a narrow sliver of illuminated surface. Later, when Venus moved to the far side of its orbit and appeared smaller and dimmer, the telescope showed it nearly full, like a tiny gibbous moon. Only a sun-centered system could account for these changes. Venus was circling the Sun, sometimes coming between Earth and the Sun, when it showed a crescent, and other times swinging around to the far side of the Sun, when it showed a fuller face. Galileo's discovery of Venus's phases had a powerful impact on the scientific world of his time. In late 1610, after months of observing Venus, he wrote in coded anagrams to colleagues, hinting at the sensational findings before he was ready to proclaim them openly. When the secret was revealed, that Venus exhibited a full set of phases, it was a death knell for the old Earth-centered cosmology. According to the Ptolemaic model then prevalent, Venus orbited Earth closer than the Sun, and thus could never show a full phase. But Galileo had seen Venus become gibbous, nearly full, when it was on the far side of the Sun. This could only be explained if Venus circled the Sun, sometimes swinging behind it relative to Earth. In one swoop, a small telescopic disk of light disproved a centuries-old belief and vindicated Copernicus's heliocentric theory. It was a gentle but firm truth told by nature's own geometry. When these findings became known, not everyone accepted them immediately. Some still tried to modify the Earth-centered models to explain the phases, but those efforts were in vain. Over time, the elegance of the sun-centered explanation won over the minds of astronomers. The phases of Venus became a classic demonstration in astronomy classes of how observation supports theory. Galileo himself, imprisoned later for his advocacy of heliocentrism, must have taken some solace, knowing that Venus's silent crescent spoke volumes in favor of the truth. The gentle geometry of sunlight and orbit creates these graceful phases. Imagine the Sun at the center, shining on Venus and Mercury as they travel inside Earth's path. When Venus is roughly between Earth and the Sun, almost its entire night side faces us, and we see just a thin arc of its daylit side, a delicate crescent hanging in space. As Venus moves along its orbit, more of its day side comes into view. When it is to the side of the Sun, from our perspective, we see it in a quarter phase, half illuminated. And when Venus swings around to the far side of the Sun, nearly its whole face is illuminated from Earth's point of view, a full phase. However, at that time, it is also most distant and lost in the Sun's glare, so the full Venus is not visible to us in practice. Instead, we catch sight of Venus mainly in its crescent and half phases, when it's closer to Earth and shining in the twilight sky. Instead, we catch sight of Venus mainly in its crescent and half phases, when it's closer to Earth and shines in the twilight sky. In those configurations, the planet offers a slender, or partially illuminated face to our telescopes, reminding us that it is positioned somewhere between us and the Sun. This interplay of light and angle becomes obvious once you've tracked Venus over several months. These phases unfold slowly. Venus takes about 584 Earth days, around a year and 7 months, to go from one extreme, say, a thin crescent in the evening sky, all the way through to the same phase again. Over those months, an attentive observer can notice the changes. With a simple telescope, or even steadily held binoculars, one might glimpse Venus's shape evolving. In the early stages of its evening apparition, Venus might show a small, bright gibbous shape, more than half lit. As it approaches Earth's orbit from the far side, it grows in apparent size, but wanes into a half phase, and then an elegant crescent. That crescent becomes larger and thinner each week, until Venus is between Earth and Sun and slips out of view. Later, when Venus emerges in the morning sky on the other side of the Sun, the sequence reverses. It appears as a thin crescent again, this time seen in the pre-dawn hours, then gradually waxes to half and gibbous phases as it recedes from Earth. Mercury, too, keeps the secret of phases, though it remained hidden a bit longer due to Mercury's small size and the difficulty of observation. Not long after Galileo's time, astronomers managed to discern Mercury's phases through telescopes as they improved. Like Venus, Mercury shows a tiny half-lit shape or a delicate crescent depending on where it is in relation to the Sun and Earth. When Mercury is on our side of the Sun, we mostly see its nighttime half, giving it a crescent form. When it's on the far side of the Sun, we see more of its sunlit side, and Mercury appears more fully illuminated, though very small and faint then. These changes confirmed that Mercury, like Venus, orbits closer to the Sun than Earth does. In fact, the discovery of the phases of Venus and Mercury was crucial evidence for the then radical idea that the planets go around the Sun rather than around Earth. Though Galileo himself could not make out Mercury's tiny disk well enough, it wasn't long before Mercury's phases were also observed. In 1639, an Italian astronomer named Giovanni Battista Zuppi pointed a more refined telescope at Mercury and reported that the little planet showed a half-moon shape. This was the first confirmation that Mercury goes through phases like Venus. It was further proof that Mercury, too, orbits the Sun interior to Earth. This observation didn't grab headlines like Galileo's did, partly because by then the idea of heliocentrism had gained ground, but it quietly added to the mounting evidence. Future astronomers would repeatedly sketch Mercury's elusive phases during favourable apparitions, pleased to catch the planet showing a miniature version of the Moon's cycle. To the modern sky gazer, knowing that Venus has phases adds another layer of appreciation when looking at the evening star. Even if our eyes can't see the shape directly, we might sense that there is more to Venus's light, that at times it's the light of a crescent, concentrated and strong. Occasionally, one can use a telescope on a clear evening and witness Venus as a tiny shining crescent in real time, a sight that feels almost magical. It's like seeing a familiar friend, the Moon, mirrored in an unexpected place. The realization that this distant world has a day side and a night side, and that we can watch the balance between them shift, makes the cosmos feel a bit more intimate. The geometry that causes these phases is the same interplay of light and shadow we observe with our Moon, but it's gentle and subtle for the planets, requiring patience to perceive. Think of the solar system as a grand ballet of spheres and light. As Venus pirouettes around the Sun inside our orbit, the angle between us changes, and we see alternating bright and dim, thick crescent and full glow. It is a quiet, predictable dance. Over centuries, astronomers charted this dance and found harmony in it. The phases come and go like clockwork, reflecting the orbit paths with beautiful simplicity. When we speak of the phase of Venus or Mercury, we're acknowledging that from our vantage point, we only ever see a portion of these planets lit up by the sun. There is something poetic about that. Part of the planet is always in darkness, part in light, and what we see depends on our perspective. This was always true, but until the invention of the telescope, humans had no way of knowing it. The discovery that Venus had phases akin to the moon's must have been a gentle revelation, fundamentally changing our view of the solar system, while simultaneously enchanting those who first saw it. In today's world, anyone with a modest telescope can reenact Galileo's discovery. Pointing a telescope at Venus in its crescent phase can be a surprisingly emotional experience. Against the bright sky, the planet shows a clear little curve of light, perfectly slender and bright along its edge, fading to nothing on its night side. To behold this is to witness orbital geometry in action, to see a planet as a three-dimensional world lit by the same sun that lights our days. It transforms Venus from just a dazzling point into a world with its own day and night. Such sights remind us that the objects we see in the sky are not just lights, but places, other spheres that, like Earth, experience sunlight and darkness. The gentle game of light and shadow, playing out on Venus and Mercury, connects our experience of phases on our moon to a cosmic scale. It's a subtle reminder of the clockwork of the heavens. Each time you catch a glimpse of Venus low in the sky, you might wonder, is it a tiny full disk right now, or a shining crescent? And though your eyes won't resolve it without help, the knowledge that Venus is going through its quiet cycle of phases can deepen the sense of wonder. It's as if Venus is quietly smiling, a crescent smile at us when it comes near, then turning a fuller face when it ventures farther away, all in accordance with the simple geometry of sunlit worlds. These are the inner secrets of Mercury and Venus, unveiled not by loud pronouncement, but by gentle changes in light, offering us a serene lesson in how our solar neighborhood works. Seen from Earth, Venus is a perfect study in brilliance and calm. Its thick blanket of clouds is the reason it shines so brightly in our skies. Those clouds, white and reflective, act like a giant mirror, bouncing sunlight back toward us. In fact, Venus's cloud cover reflects about 3/4 of the sunlight that falls on it, making the planet gleam like a beacon. Yet that very radiance is deceiving. It tells us nothing of what lies below, because the clouds hide everything beneath them. For centuries, Venus kept its secrets well, a gorgeous shining orb on the outside, with an air of mystery about its unseen surface. Looking at Venus through a telescope, one sees a smooth, featureless disk, often slightly yellow-white due to the cloud tops. Unlike Mars or the Moon, which show craters and markings, Venus reveals no detail to the eye, only an even glow. Early astronomers noted this uniform appearance and realized that Venus must be swathed in a substantial atmosphere. They imagined what could be under that perpetual cover. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, some speculated that a lush, Earth-like world might exist below, perhaps with endless clouds causing constant rains and swamps. Others thought of vast oceans, with the clouds being a global fog. After all, if Earth had clouds and water, maybe Venus's thick clouds hid water and life as well. The reality, when finally uncovered, turned out to be very different, almost the inverse of those wet and verdant dreams. Beneath the clouds of Venus lies a world of intense heat and crushing pressure. The bright clouds that look so tranquil from afar are composed largely of sulfuric acid droplets and extend dozens of kilometers high, forming a dense, unbroken overcast. Sunlight barely penetrates this thick atmosphere. On the surface, midday light is as dim and reddish as early evening on Earth. If you could stand on Venus's surface, you wouldn't see the sun as a distinct disk, only a diffuse glow through eternal clouds. The landscape around you would be illuminated in a copper-orange twilight, as if the sun were perpetually about to set. Shadows would be weak and hazy. The air itself would have a yellowish tint, and you would feel, even through a suit, an immense heat warming everything. The temperature on Venus's surface is astonishing. Around 465 degrees Celsius, about 870 degrees, hot enough to melt lead. It is by far the hottest planet in our solar system, even though Mercury is closer to the Sun. This is because Venus's thick atmosphere, made mostly of carbon dioxide, traps heat in a runaway greenhouse effect, creating a furnace-like environment below the clouds. Day or night, the temperature hardly varies. Venus's heat is locked in. Moreover, the pressure at the surface is crushing, about 90 times the pressure at Earth's sea level. That's equivalent to being nearly a kilometre underwater in Earth's ocean. Any visitor to Venus's surface would be in a realm of extreme conditions: dim light, toxic smog, immense pressure, and searing temperature. For a long time, these conditions were mere conjecture. No human eyes saw the surface directly through the clouds. It wasn't until the 20th century that we began to pierce Venus's veil. In the 1960s and 70s, the first space probes arrived at Venus. Some flew by with special instruments like radar to map the surface through the clouds. A few Soviet Venera probes even descended through the atmosphere, surviving long enough to send back the first photographs from the ground. What they revealed was a dry, rocky terrain, with a colour reminiscent of rust or butterscotch under the overcast sky. The ground was covered in stones and dust, and in the faint light it looked strangely still, with a horizon fading into thick haze. There were no signs of any oceans or life, only a silent, oven-hot desert under a sulphurous sky. As more missions studied Venus, a picture emerged of a world dominated by volcanism. Radar mapping showed that Venus's surface is covered in vast volcanic plains, highland areas like continents, and thousands of large volcanoes and calderas. There are impact craters too, though fewer than on Mercury or the Moon, because Venus's young volcanic surface has covered many older craters. The planet appears to have been resurfaced by lava flows on a global scale in its past. Yet, despite all this volcanic evidence, not a drop of liquid water exists on Venus. Any water oceans it might have had in the distant past have long since evaporated and dissociated under the intense greenhouse heat. The water vapor escaped, or was broken apart, leaving Venus arid and desolate beneath its clouds. One might think that such a harsh world would look dark or menacing from space. But ironically, Venus wears a cloak of beauty. Its cloud tops are dazzlingly bright, almost pure white with a touch of cream. These clouds swirl in broad bands and whirls if viewed in ultraviolet images, whipped around the planet by high-speed winds that encircle the globe in mere days. Despite the furious winds aloft, blowing hundreds of kilometers per hour, the view from below is one of stagnation. The thick air near the ground barely stirs. If you were on the surface, you might feel only a faint breeze. Even though miles above, the upper atmosphere is racing around the planet in just 4 Earth days, a phenomenon called superrotation. In effect, Venus's atmosphere has a split personality, serene and slow at the surface, but swift and dynamic high in the clouds. Standing on Venus, in an imaginary scenario, protected by some miraculous suit or capsule, you would find the experience utterly alien, yet eerily calm in some ways. The sky would be a deep orange haze, uniformly glowing without a hint of blue. No sun, no stars, no break in the cloud cover, just a diffuse brightness during what passes for day. If it were noon on Venus, you might not realize it, because the lighting would resemble an earthly late afternoon or an overcast dusk. The terrain around you, revealed by the lander's images, is mostly flat or gently rolling in many places, strewn with rocks. Some areas have sharp-edged stones, others smoother pebble-like fragments, likely sculpted by ancient lava flows. Off in the distance, you might see the outline of a low hill or rise, fading into the thick air. Everything would have a soft, slightly blurred look, because the dense atmosphere bends and scatters light in all directions. There is no water on the ground, no rain falling. Although the upper clouds do condense acid droplets, they evaporate before reaching the inferno below. Thunder may flash in the clouds. Scientists suspect lightning does occur on Venus. But any thunderclap would be muffled by the dense air, and likely you'd perceive little of it at the surface. The dominant sensation would be the immense heat and the pressure, if one could even feel such things through a protective shell. It is an environment of extremes, wrapped in an appearance of gentle light. There is an odd irony in Venus's nature. Though its clouds race around at high altitudes, the solid planet itself rotates extremely slowly. A single day-night cycle on Venus, sunrise to sunrise, lasts about 117 Earth days. And curiously, the sun would appear to rise in the west and set in the east, because Venus spins in the opposite direction of most planets. Of course, beneath the unvarying blanket of clouds, such a distinction is moot. One wouldn't see the sun break through at dawn or watch it slip below the horizon at dusk. The surface is in a state of eternal filtered daylight or darkness, depending on the layer of clouds overhead. Time on Venus's surface would creep almost imperceptibly, measured more by the thickening and thinning of the gloom than by any clear diurnal pattern. Intriguingly, some scientists have speculated that even a planet as hostile as Venus might harbour a form of life, not on its searing surface, but high up in its cloud layers. About 50 kilometres above the ground, the temperature and pressure are much more Earth-like, though the clouds there are acidic. In recent years, the detection of certain chemical anomalies in Venus's atmosphere, like an unexpected abundance of a gas called phosphine, has prompted debate about whether tiny microbes could exist in the cool, dim cloud tops. It remains a far-fetched idea and unproven, but the mere possibility is a reminder that Venus still holds mysteries. Even enveloped in harsh clouds, life finds a way to tease our imagination. For now, it is only a hypothesis, and Venus keeps whatever secrets it has tightly hidden behind its veil. Despite how inhospitable Venus is to life or human exploration, its shroud of clouds gives it a peculiar connection to our imagination. For so long we looked at Venus and saw only a shining veil. It became a symbol of mystery. In many ways, that mystique remains. Even now that we know what's beneath the clouds, the planet still keeps certain secrets. We have never observed its surface directly with human eyes, only through cameras and radar maps. There may be active volcanoes still erupting, as hints of changing sulfur dioxide levels and thermal spots suggest, but thick clouds keep the definitive evidence out of view in visible light. Venus challenges us to learn in indirect ways. Now, in the 21st century, there is renewed interest in uncovering Venus's secrets. Space agencies are planning new missions that will send atmospheric probes and orbiters to Venus in the coming decade, hoping to finally answer whether volcanoes still erupt beneath the clouds or if any signs of past water remain trapped in the rocks. Someday, scientists may even design aerial drones or balloons to float in Venus's upper atmosphere, examining its clouds and climate up close. Each mission will bring us a little closer to seeing through the veil completely. Until then, Venus hangs bright and mysterious in our sky, a reminder of how much we have left to explore. Even now, there's a sense of romance in Venus's secrecy. Some future mission may drop beneath the clouds again to explore that silent orange landscape. Until then, every time Venus graces the twilight, we enjoy the paradox, a world bright enough to cast shadows and guide travelers, that at once conceals utterly its true face. A world that from afar is all loveliness and light, and up close is anything but. Venus, the cloud-wrapped morning and evening star, remains both our familiar friend in the sky and an enigmatic stranger behind the veil. At the edge of twilight, when the day's noise settles, Mercury and Venus quietly take their positions as our celestial companions. Each in their own way signals a transition. Venus, with her steady brilliance, is often the first to appear as daylight fades, and Mercury, when visible, marks that fleeting link between sunlight and starlight. Over human history, countless eyes have turned to these wandering lights during the calm of dusk and dawn. They have become part of the gentle ritual of day's end and day's beginning, a reassurance that the cosmos continues its rhythm as our Earth turns. Sometimes, just after sunset, the eastern sky opposite the sun blushes with a pink band above a deep blue horizon, a phenomenon romantically called the Belt of Venus. It is not caused by the planet itself, but by the geometry of sunlight and Earth's shadow, yet the name is fitting. As the sun departs, the sky paints a delicate rose hue, and in that gentle light, one might soon find Venus or Mercury gracing the opposite horizon. It's as though the sky itself acknowledges the coming of the evening star with a subtle blush. For many, spotting Venus in the evening is like greeting an old friend. Perhaps you step outside after dinner, the sky still a deep royal blue, and almost instinctively, your gaze finds that diamond-white point hanging low in the west. There is a comfort in its consistency. You know that as the sky darkens, Venus will shine even more boldly, holding space in the dimming light. In times past, people would align their activities to Venus's appearance. Lamps might be lit when the evening star became visible, signaling that night was truly coming on. Farmers and shepherds noted Venus in the twilight as the time to guide their animals home. This bright planet, hence, earned the name Shepherd's Star for the way it watched over late hours in the field. Mercury, on the other hand, rewards a patient watcher. It's not always present. You have to catch it during one of its brief showings. But knowing when Mercury might be visible becomes a cherished anticipation for a sky enthusiast. There's a certain quiet excitement in scanning a pale orange horizon after sunset, hoping for Mercury's tiny spark to materialize. Those who succeed often remember the moment, a tiny flicker near the horizon that suddenly becomes clear, Mercury revealing itself at last. In the stillness of dawn, Mercury can also play the role of a subtle herald. An early riser might pause in the chilly pre-sunrise gloom to search the eastern horizon, and for a few mornings in a given month, be greeted by Mercury's delicate presence above the silhouette of trees or rooftops. Such encounters are brief, but therein lies their magic. They feel like a secret between you and the cosmos. Venus, of course, is far easier to commune with. It demands little effort to find, as it shines insistently when it is in our skies. Because of this, Venus has woven itself into countless human experiences. Think of a traveller in ancient times, walking toward home at dusk. The first star appears. It's Venus, guiding the traveller with its steady light. Or imagine a poet sitting by a window in the early morning hours, catching sight of Venus rising before the sun and finding inspiration in its solitary brilliance. In more recent times, artists have been inspired by Venus's presence. The painter, Vincent van Gogh, in his famous painting Starry Night, included a bright star in the pre-dawn sky. That brilliant point is likely Venus, the morning star he saw before sunrise, while at an asylum in Saint-Rémy. Even without knowing its identity, viewers of the painting can sense the hope and steady light that the star embodied for the artist in the quiet of early morning. Across cultures, Venus in her two guises was given many names and stories, often linked to deities of love, war, or the dawn. To the Romans, she was Venus, to the Greeks, Phosphoros in the morning, and Hesperos in the evening. To the peoples of Mesopotamia, she was Ishtar or Astarte, and to others, she was known as the Great Star of the Dawn or Dusk. Despite the different names, the feelings evoked were similar: awe at her brilliance and a sense of comfort at her presence. When poets and storytellers spoke of the morning or evening star, they tapped into a universal well of emotion, inspired by watching that lone light keeping vigil at daybreak or nightfall. There is a kind of fellowship in knowing that our ancestors, thousands of years ago, watched the same evening star slowly dip behind the horizon that we watch today. The world has changed immeasurably, but Mercury and Venus return in their cycles, unchanged in their routine. A person sitting on a balcony tonight, gazing at Venus in the dusky glow, is experiencing a moment very like one that occurred in a bygone age. Perhaps a farmer in ancient China, pausing at sundown to admire the sky's first light, or a child in medieval Europe making a wish upon the evening star. These planets have been quiet witnesses to our history, always there at the fringes of daylight, twinkling with the same soft light that has touched human hearts through every era. Observing these twilight planets can become a personal meditation. In the modern world, life can be hurried and full of artificial lights, yet Venus still commands attention when it's out, even above city skylines. Taking a moment to watch Venus gleam over the rooftops, or Mercury peeking out near a clear horizon, can slow down time for just a little while. The mind drifts as the sky darkens, and one can imagine the ancient sky watchers doing the same, feeling the same sense of smallness and connection to the great dance of the planets. Such moments gently remind us that we are part of a larger cosmic cycle. The sun will set, the inner planets will make their brief appearance, and then yield to the deeper night. There is a subtle emotional comfort in these simple observations. In a fast-paced world, noticing something as steady as Venus's return each evening or Mercury's brief visits can ground us. It reminds us that not everything changes from day to day. Some cycles are reliable and timeless. The planets don't hurry. They move according to gravitational rhythms set in motion billions of years ago. When we tune into that slow cadence by watching dusk and dawn planets, we momentarily step out of our human time and into cosmic time. Personal worries may ease in that perspective. Many people find that the quiet act of planet gazing can soothe the mind, a form of cosmic mindfulness. The sight of Venus following the sun down, or Mercury's delicate wink, can impart a sense of peace that's hard to articulate, an assurance that the universe has order and beauty even on days that felt chaotic. Some sky lovers make a point of planning their schedules around these planets' appearances. They know when Venus will shine at her brightest, casting faint shadows on moonless nights. They know when Mercury reaches its greatest elongation, offering the best chance to finally spot the elusive planet. This planning itself becomes a joyful ritual, an excuse to step outside at the quiet times of dawn or dusk and look up. There is a serene pleasure in anticipating Venus's rise or Mercury's brief outing, a bit like waiting for the first bird to sing at morning. And when the planet dutifully appears, one feels in tune with the motions of the solar system. Even in more recent history, Venus played a role in human journeys. Mariners navigating by the stars would eagerly await Venus's appearance at twilight. Being so bright, it was often the first star to peek out, allowing sailors to take a sextant reading against the horizon, while enough light remained to see the sea's outline. In those moments, Venus guided them in a very practical sense, helping to fix their position at sea. It's fascinating to think of an ancient navigator on a calm ocean, measuring the angle to Venus in the western sky, the planet serving as both a practical tool and a comforting presence on an endless horizon. Mercury and Venus also often engage in their own little performances with other celestial objects. For instance, it's not uncommon to see Venus near a slender crescent moon in the early evening, a sight of breathtaking beauty that has been noted in art and folklore. That pairing of the brightest planet with the softly glowing moon, suspended together in twilight, has been an inspiration from time immemorial. People would stop and gaze, some seeing a celestial meeting of a goddess and the moon, others simply moved by the aesthetic grace of it. Mercury, being more shy, occasionally has its moments too. Sometimes it forms a triangle with Venus and the moon, low in the west, giving those with sharp eyes a trio of lights to cherish for a few minutes in the fading daylight. As night fully falls, Venus eventually sets, and Mercury, if it was out, vanishes, handing over the sky to the stars and to planets that roam farther from the sun. But their impact on our evening or morning mood lingers. To catch sight of either is to catch a moment of cosmic alignment, our view through space lined up just so to allow a glimpse of our neighbours hugging the sun. It's a gentle reminder of the clockwork of our solar system that operates whether we watch it or not, but which generously offers beauty to those who do take the time to look. In quiet neighbourhoods, some individuals make a habit of stepping out each dawn to see if Venus is still there in the east, twinkling amid the first birdsong. Or at dusk, to find Venus, and perhaps point it out to a friend or child saying, "That's the evening star." In doing so, they pass on an ancient piece of knowledge wrapped in a simple act of appreciation. These little rituals of watching have a way of centering us. They require no telescope, no special equipment, just awareness and a moment of pause. Under the slowly changing sky, Mercury and Venus connect day to night. They bookend our daylight, appearing as emissaries of the sun. Venus often visible soon after the sun leaves the sky, and Mercury only when the sun's absence is brief and partial. They illustrate the delicate balance of our planetary family, staying near our star, as if tethered by invisible strings of gravity and light. And we, standing on Earth, get to witness this balance play out in real time. Each appearance is a small event that can spark joy if noticed. As our journey with these inner lights comes to a close for now, we carry with us the sense of calm they impart. The sun has set on Mercury and Venus's watch for the night, but soon enough, in a new dawn or on another dusk, they will be back, gracing the horizon quietly. With the sky now fully given over to night, our attention can turn to other wanderers that emerge in the darkness. Perhaps the reddish spark of Mars, rising later in the evening, or the distant giants out toward midnight. But we will remember the gentle glow of Mercury's farewell and Venus's faithful shine at twilight. They remain our constant dusk and dawn companions, ever-present beacons that link the day we've had to the night that's coming, inviting us to slow down, look up, and appreciate the dependable beauty of the cosmos unfolding above. Our journey through the planets is far from over. Beyond the sun's immediate vicinity lie the more distant wanderers that adorn the midnight sky. In the next quiet chapters of our exploration, we will venture farther outward, leaving the inner lights of Mercury and Venus, and setting our sights on other worlds that rise once the twilight has given way to night. In the silent expanse beyond our familiar world, a gentle red light beckons from the darkness. Against the canvas of a midnight sky, spattered with countless stars, this light glows steadily with a warm, ruddy hue. Unlike the distant stars that shimmer and twinkle, this ruby point shines with a constant, unwavering presence. For millennia, human eyes have turned upward to find this red lantern hanging in the night, tracing its slow journey across the heavens from season to season. There is a quiet comfort in its glow, a sense that even in the vast dark, a friendly beacon is there to guide the traveller's sight. Mars reveals itself as a wandering star, distinct in colour and character from the others. In ancient times it was named for a god of war due to its blood-like tint, but here and now it feels more like a watchful guardian than an omen. Night after night, if one watches patiently, they will see Mars shift its position among the constellations, a gentle drift that set it apart from the fixed stars. It rises and sets as the hours pass, at times bold and bright when it comes closest to Earth, and at other times fainter and farther away on the opposite side of the sun. But whether near or far, its rusty red presence remains unmistakable, a tiny ember of colour in a sea of silver starlight. To find Mars on a clear evening, one needs only to seek out that subtle reddish spark low above the horizon or high in the late night sky, depending on the time of year. The planet's path carries it through different constellations, and sometimes it appears near the moon or alongside bright stars, making for a serene celestial tableau. When Mars comes to opposition, the point when Earth overtakes it and the sun fully illuminates its face, it can shine as one of the brightest points in the entire sky, outshining almost every star around it. On those special nights, Mars's light is particularly vivid, and one might even discern its tint without effort, a tiny disk of fire hanging in the void. As our eyes adjust to the darkness, Mars draws our focus like a campfire in a distant field. Perhaps you imagine yourself long ago on a desert night, following this red guide across the sky as it rose in the east and climbed overhead. The air is cool and still. The stars form their eternal patterns, and among them, Mars moves in its own time, unhurried. There is a mystery to that motion, a promise that beyond the pinpricks of starlight lies a real place, a world waiting in the darkness, in the quiet of night, with crickets chirping in the distance or wind softly rustling. Gazing up at Mars can feel like seeing a familiar face far from home. Generations before us stood under these skies and pointed out Mars to their children. They watched its steady red glow and wondered what it might be. A star? A deity a portent. In truth, it was a neighbour, a small planet travelling around the sun like Earth, keeping a respectful distance. It's humbling to know now that this point of light is a whole globe of deserts and canyons. But tonight, we appreciate it simply as a beacon of tranquility. Mars does not flicker with urgent brightness. It does not flash or flare abruptly. It just glows softly, consistently, like an eternal ember, reminding us that we are part of a wider solar family. Up above the sleeping houses and the shadowed trees, Mars, the red lantern, hangs quietly. Its patience is palpable. It will be there tomorrow night and the night after, shifting a little, marking the passage of weeks and months in the slow dance of the planets. To find Mars is to locate a steady friend in the sky, a companion for those who walk alone under night's canopy, or those who simply gaze out a window in thought. Its subtle light whispers of distant landscapes and ancient stories, yet it asks nothing of us, only that we take a moment to notice its presence. In doing so, we join the countless souls throughout time who have found peace and wonder in the sight of the red star that isn't a star at all. Now that we draw nearer to Mars, the little red dot becomes a vast landscape under a distant sun. Mars has seasons, just as Earth does, because its axis is tilted about 25 degrees, a tilt very similar to our planet's. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter all visit this cold desert world in turn, but they linger much longer. Mars takes 687 Earth days to complete a single journey around the sun, so each Martian season unfolds at a leisurely pace, nearly twice the duration of an earthly season. In the thin Martian air, change comes gently and slowly. The rhythm of day and night on Mars is familiar. A day is only about 40 minutes longer than our own. Yet the progression of months is drawn out, with the sun's warmth waxing and waning in a more gradual cadence. If you could stand on the rust-coloured plains of Mars at midday, you would find the sunlight weaker. The sky above you would appear strangely tinted. The sun, smaller and more remote than we know, casts a golden light through an atmosphere only about 1% as dense as Earth's. During the day, the heavens above are not the brilliant blue of an earthly noon, but instead a muted yellow-brown, a butterscotch glow caused by fine dust suspended in the air. The sky is hazy and pale, almost white gold near the horizon where sunlight passes through the dusty air. As evening approaches, the colours change in a subtle, beautiful way. The dusty atmosphere that made the day so softly yellow now produces a cool azure halo around the setting sun. Twilight on Mars can bring an ethereal blue tint just above the sunset, a final gift of light before the darkness falls. It is the inverse of Earth's fiery red sunsets, a quiet Martian dusk where the last light is blue and gentle. In those moments, the boundary between day and night on Mars feels especially otherworldly and calm. Mars's surface wears the changing colours of the seasons. In winter, the poles of Mars become swathed in white as carbon dioxide frost and snow blanket the polar plains. The temperatures drop so low, colder than 130 degrees, that the thin atmosphere itself begins to freeze out onto the ground. A soft snow made of CO2, dry ice, settles in the polar night, forming a seasonal ice cap that can reach far beyond the permanent water ice caps underneath. Each spring, as sunlight returns, this layer of frozen carbon dioxide sublimates directly back into gas, rejoining the atmosphere. In fact, Around a quarter of the entire Martian atmosphere cycles in and out of these seasonal polar caps every year. Imagine the stillness of a Martian dawn in spring. The sun peaks over the horizon, weak but persistent, and across the polar plain a wisp of fog forms as the dry ice turns to vapor, carving channels in the new ice and stirring a faint breeze in the silent air. As the seasons turn to summer, the polar snows retreat and darker ground emerges from beneath the frost. Huge dune fields and ancient rocks are revealed, warmed by the sun. In past centuries, astronomers watching through telescopes saw these dark areas expand and shrink with the seasons, and wondered if they were blooming Martian plants. Today, we know it is a cycle of dust and ice, a world breathing in and out, not with life, but with wind. In the thin air, winds are usually gentle, but they can still carry fine reddish dust across vast distances. On a clear summer day, you might see dust devils dancing quietly on the horizon, spinning columns of powder that rise and wander across the plains, leaving dark tracks behind them. These dust devils are like tiny whirlwinds, but they move in eerie silence in the nearly airless landscape, stirring only a whisper as they pass. Sometimes the placid weather of Mars stirs into something more dramatic. Every Martian year, as the sun warms the air, moderately large dust storms will kick up in certain regions. These storms can spread and merge, covering areas the size of whole continents in ochre dust clouds. They may last for weeks, tinting the sky brown and turning day into a golden dusk. Even so, standing on Mars, you would not hear roaring winds as you might in an Earth sandstorm. The atmosphere is simply too thin. The dust moves in ghostly silence, borne on winds that reach high speeds but carry little force. Once every few years, when conditions align just right, a local storm will grow until it wraps around the entire planet. The world fades into a sepia haze. The sun becomes a faint amber disk in the sky. The horizons vanish in a blur of dust. For weeks or months, Mars's face is hidden under this veil, and anyone watching from Earth would see the planet's usual markings muted, replaced by a blank, dusty glow. Eventually, the storm settles. Dust falls back to the ground, the air clears, and the familiar features, the polar caps, the dark volcanic plains, quietly reappear. Through all these changes, Mars remains a realm of soft, subdued colours. Its blue skies are not truly blue like ours, but an ever-shifting palette of apricot and rose, peach and periwinkle at twilight. Its ground is tinted in tones of butterscotch, rust and umber, brightened here and there by the pale glow of frost on winter mornings. Seasons change slowly on Mars, and any watcher would learn patience. You could sit beside a rocky outcrop and watch the shadows gradually lengthen day by day as winter comes on, or notice a faint whitening on the far horizon as new frost gathers in autumn. Over 2 Earth years would pass before you'd lived through all of Mars's diverse seasons, a long, quiet cycle under a pastel sky. In this alien tranquility, we find a strange comfort. Though Mars is cold and quiet, its slow seasons and pale skies have a rhythm and beauty, not unlike the gentle, patient breathing of the planet itself. Even in a world so different from Earth, there is a familiar reassurance in its gentle cycles. It is a slow rhythm that speaks to us across the gulf of space. As night falls on Mars, 2 tiny companions emerge in the sky to keep the red planet company. Phobos and Deimos, the moons of Mars, are worlds in miniature, irregular, dark, and barely a few miles across. Named after ancient spirits of fear and dread, they present no frightful spectacle. Instead, they are gentle lights tracing quiet paths overhead. To an observer on Mars, these moons would appear quite different from the brilliant moon we know on Earth. Phobos, the closer moon, looms larger, but still only spans about 2/5 the apparent width of Earth's full moon. Deimos, farther out, is so small it would look like a bright star gliding against the darkness. Both are diminutive, cosmic dust motes circling a rust-coloured world. Phobos is the innermost and the swiftest moon in the solar system. It skims just above Mars, only about 6,000 kilometres over the Martian surface, and completes an orbit in roughly 7 hours and 40 minutes. Because it moves faster than Mars rotates, it does something no moon does in Earth's sky. It rises in the west and hurries eastward, crossing the heavens in a matter of hours. An intrepid explorer watching the twilight sky might first notice Phobos as a swift-moving point of light, growing brighter as it climbs. In the span of a single night, Phobos can rise, arc overhead, and set, sometimes making the journey twice before dawn. It is a restless little moon, forever racing around Mars, as if chasing the sunset. Despite its speedy motion, Phobos shines only modestly. Its surface is dark and dusty, reflecting little sunlight. Even at its brightest, when the moon is high at midnight, Phobos would glow at only a few % of the brightness of our full moon. It casts a weak, ghostly light over the Martian landscape, enough perhaps to notice your shadow in the sand when Phobos is directly overhead, but not enough to bathe the land in silver. If you were standing on Mars during a Phobos moonrise, you would see this misshapen rock glowing softly, revealing its lumpy outline through a telescope, but appearing as just a small, pale disk to the naked eye. As it climbs higher, you might catch sight of its largest crater, Stickney, as a faint dimple on one side if the lighting is just right. But blink, and perhaps you'll miss it. Phobos slips past quickly, descending toward the eastern horizon, leaving the sky a little darker once it's gone. For a brief moment it had shared its glow, and now the darkness deepens again once it has passed. Deimos, Mars's outer moon, offers a different sort of companionship. It is smaller and orbits much farther out, taking about 30 hours to circle Mars, a period just over a Martian day. Thus, Deimos appears to drift lazily from east to west, rising gently in the eastern sky and setting the next day in the west. Where Phobos darts, Deimos strolls. To the unaided eye, Deimos would never show a clear disk. It would look like a solitary bright star quietly wandering among the constellations. Its light is even dimmer than Phobos's, for Deimos is half as wide and as dark in complexion. On a very dark night, you might notice Deimos as a point of light that wasn't there before, inching its way above the horizon. Hours later, it glides overhead, a tiny lantern hung in the vastness. It even twinkles slightly as the thin Martian air makes its light shimmer. For those who keep watching, its presence is subtle but steady, a small spark moving among the fixed stars. Watching these two moons might become a favourite pastime for a traveller on Mars. There is something soothing in their regular appearances and disappearances. Every night on Mars, Phobos will be there for a short while, dashing by like a playful fox in the twilight, while Deimos will keep a longer vigil, rising quietly and staying until the morning sky grows light. In their own way, they mark the time for Mars's nights, Phobos ringing the hours with its frequent passages, Deimos marking the long, cold watches of the night. One could imagine standing on a ridge in the Martian dusk as the sky turns from deep blue to black. You might spot Phobos creeping up behind you in the west, while overhead the first stars appear, along with tiny Deimos. In that moment, under a dome of unfamiliar stars, you would have not one moon, but two to keep you company. And in the stillness of that Martian night, the presence of these twin moons might bring comfort to an otherwise lonely sky. Though born of mythological fear, Mars's little moons inspire more wonder than dread. They are likely captured wayward asteroids or remnants of an ancient impact. Small fragments of the solar system now bound to Mars. Up close, spacecraft images show them as potato-shaped rocks covered in craters and dust. But from the ground, they are simply moving lights against the sky. Their presence reminds anyone gazing upward from Mars that even in the stillness of night, there is motion and companionship to be found. Phobos and Deimos, the swift hare and the steady tortoise of the Martian night, continue their ceaseless rounds, silently writing their twin arcs across the stars and watching over the red deserts below. Beyond Mars lies a vast expanse of space where countless small worlds circle the sun. This is the asteroid belt, a broad, quiet zone filled with debris left over from the solar system's formation. Here, between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter, innumerable stones drift in lonely orbits, the shattered remnants of what might have been a planet in another history. Unlike the crowded swarms imagined in fiction, the real asteroid belt is mostly emptiness, sprinkled with isolated rocks separated by enormous distances. Days or weeks could pass without any two asteroids coming within sight of one another. They are solitary travelers, bound by the sun's gravity, each on its own silent path. Amid this population of minor planets, one stands out. Ceres, often called the Queen of the Asteroid Belt. Ceres is by far the largest member, a globe about 940 kilometers across, large enough that its gravity has shaped it into a sphere rather than a jagged rock. In fact, Ceres alone accounts for roughly 1/3 of the entire belt's known mass. Once discovered in 1801, it was initially deemed a new planet before later being classified as the first of the asteroids, and more recently as a dwarf planet. Ceres is a world of rock and ice. Its grey surface is dusted with clay-like minerals and salts. In the dark of space, it reflects sunlight modestly, but certain spots gleam with unusual brightness, the aftermath of ice and salt deposits exposed by past impacts. Ceres even bears signs of past geological activity. A solitary dome-like mountain, Ahuna Mons, is believed to be a cryovolcano, an ice volcano that oozed slushy brine instead of lava. NASA's Dawn spacecraft confirmed this complex nature, capturing images of bright salt flats inside Ceres's craters and that strange icy mountain. This little world, floating alone in the silence, carries hints of an internal warmth and a buried ocean that long ago froze beneath its crust. Though Ceres is the giant of this realm, it is still tiny compared to any true planet. To put things in perspective, if one could gather all the asteroids of the main belt and combine them, their total mass would be only a few % of Earth's moon. These small worlds come in many sizes and shapes. After Ceres, a handful of other big asteroids, Vesta, Pallas, and Hygeia, account for much of the remaining mass. Vesta, for instance, is a rocky body about 530 kilometers wide and so bright that at times it can be glimpsed from Earth with the naked eye as a tiny star. Most asteroids, however, are far smaller, ranging from mountain-sized boulders down to bodies no bigger than a house, or even pebbles and grains of dust. Some are solid metal, the leftover cores of shattered protoplanets. Others are porous piles of rubble barely held together by gravity. All of them are relics of the early solar system, fragments that never coalesced into a larger planet because of the disruptive pull of Jupiter just beyond. Scattered as they are, asteroids sometimes share family ties. When a larger asteroid was broken apart by a collision eons ago, its fragments continued to travel together, spreading out along similar orbits. These groups are known as asteroid families, clumps of siblings in space, each fragment silently following its kin around the Sun. One such family might consist of dozens of dark, carbon-rich rocks, all that remains of a primordial parent body. Another family might be born of a violent cratering on Vesta long ago, the debris of that impact still moving in step like a ghostly parade. Even without a telescope, an astronaut drifting through the heart of the asteroid belt might notice subtle patterns among the debris. For example, several small rocks could be following nearly the same path, or a trail of fragments might line up as if from the same source. Their kinship is invisible, but real, a testament to ancient collisions that once shattered a larger world. What would it be like to stand on one of these ancient stones? Imagine yourself on the cratered surface of Ceres on a distant afternoon. The sun hangs low in a sky that is utterly black, for Ceres has no atmosphere to scatter light. The stars are visible even at midday. The sun itself is smaller and gentler here, only a fraction as bright as seen from Earth, but still it bathes the grey landscape in a soft daylight. You stand in a shallow crater, filled with fine dust that has lain untouched for millennia. The horizon curves noticeably closer than on Earth, reminding you that this world is petite. With a light jump, you find you can leap several times higher than you could back home, moving almost in slow motion under Ceres's weak gravity. Around you, the silence is profound. Not even a whisper of wind disturbs this airless silence. As night falls, the temperature plummets, and frost may gather in shadowed pockets. Overhead, you might see the distant dot of Jupiter rising, or even catch the blue spark of Earth shining far away, if you know where to look. In the starlit darkness, you feel truly alone, a tiny being on a tiny world beneath an infinite sky. Between the worlds of Mars and Jupiter, these asteroids have quietly circled the Sun for billions of years. They carry on ancient cycles with little fanfare. Ceres spins once every 9 hours, turning face after face to the distant sunlight, while smaller rocks tumble slowly or not at all. Occasionally, 2 asteroids wander too close and gently collide, or a passing comet's gravity nudges an asteroid onto a new course. Most of the time, though, the belt is tranquil. Each fragment of stone or metal keeps to its own track, like an old patient horse on a very large carousel. But once in a great while, one of these stones between worlds is jostled from its place and sent on a new journey towards the inner solar system. When that happens, a piece of the silent belt falls into the bright realm of the planets. If fate and physics will it, it might streak through Earth's atmosphere as a meteor, a brief flash of light telling the story of its long voyage. In that fiery end, we are reminded that even the quietest corners of the solar system can touch our lives with a sudden, startling brilliance. On a still, dark night, under a broad sky of stars, you wait in quiet anticipation. The air is cool, and the world is hushed. Suddenly, a streak of light silently cuts across the heavens. A thin, quick stroke of pure white that wasn't there a heartbeat before. It flashes and is gone in an instant, leaving you blinking and smiling in the darkness. You have just witnessed a meteor, a shooting star, one of nature's most fleeting and beautiful phenomena. For a moment, it's as if a star dared to fall, drawing a bright line on the canvas of night. What truly happened in that brief flash? High above the Earth, a tiny grain of cosmic dust, perhaps no larger than a sand grain or pebble, plunged into our atmosphere at tremendous speed. In its rapid dive, the particle compressed the air in front of it, heating both air and itself to incandescence. It vaporized in a blaze of glory, painting a fiery trail miles long across the upper sky. To an observer on the ground, this manifests as a quick, delicate filament of light, here and then gone forever. Most meteors burn up completely, never reaching the ground. They exist only as a final flash of light and a fond memory for those who see them. Meteors can occur at any time, on any clear night, but there are times when the sky offers them in abundance. These are the meteor showers, regular annual events when the Earth, in its journey around the Sun, passes through trails of dusty debris left by comets and, in a few cases, asteroids. During a shower's peak, you may see dozens of shooting stars in an hour, all seeming to emerge from one area of the sky. We name the showers after the constellation from which the meteors appear to radiate. For example, each August, the Perseid meteor shower lights up the heavens, so named because the meteors trace back to the constellation Perseus. Every one of those Perseid meteors is a tiny piece of the comet Swift-Tuttle, which swings by the Sun every 135 years. In November, the Leonids arrive, birthed by comet Tempel-Tuttle, leaving fiery streaks that fan out from Leo. There are many such showers, the Geminids of December, the Lyrids of April, and more. Each is a whisper of an ancient comet long since past, its dusty memory returning to us as sparks in the night. To experience a meteor shower is to practice patience and wonder at once. Imagine yourself lying back on a blanket in a dark field, gazing up at a moonless summer sky. The Milky Way arches overhead as a gauzy river of stars. You have allowed your eyes to adjust, revealing countless stars sprinkled across the sky. You know meteors are due tonight. Perhaps this is the Perseid's peak, but you have no idea when or where the next one will streak into view. And so you watch, relaxed and alert, your eyes roaming the heavens. Minutes go by. A satellite slides quietly across the stars. Then, just as your attention begins to drift, a swift scratch of light crosses the zenith and vanishes before you can catch your breath. Maybe, in that moment, you make a wish, following the old tradition that grants wishes upon falling stars. Soon, another meteor streaks in the corner of your vision. Then comes another, brighter one with a golden tail. Some are faint and quick, like tiny sparks. Others leave glowing trails that linger a second or two, etching themselves into your mind's eye. You find yourself bonding with friends or family beside you each time one appears, sharing gasps and pointing fingers, as if cherishing small gifts delivered from the universe. Meteor showers carry with them the echoes of memory. They are annual markers in the calendar of the night sky, returning year after year like old friends. Perhaps you remember watching the Geminids on a cold December night as a child, bundled in a coat beside a parent who showed you your first falling star. Or you recall a summer camping trip when the Perseids blazed and you stayed up all night, counting them until dawn. Each generation passes on the knowledge of these showers, when to watch, which direction to face, and in doing so, we connect to those who came before. There is a kind of continuity in looking up at the same celestial fireworks that our ancestors did, our hearts making the same wishes. And beyond the human memories, the meteors themselves are messengers of time long gone. The dust that creates tonight's fireworks might have broken off a comet's tail hundreds or thousands of years ago, wandering in darkness until crossing Earth's path this very night. In that sense, a meteor is a tiny piece of ancient history, igniting for a second to remind us of the cosmic journey it took. It is cosmic memory made visible, if only for an instant. Eventually, as the night deepens, the meteor shower wanes. Perhaps you've counted dozens of shooting stars by now. Your neck a bit stiff, but your spirit content. The eastern sky may be growing lighter with the approach of dawn, washing out the faint streaks. You stand up, stretch, and in that moment, see one last meteor, a final gift, sliding silently above the treetops. You close your eyes and imprint the sight into memory, knowing how lucky you were to witness this gentle celestial rain. As you walk back under the paling sky, you carry with you the memory of that quiet wanderer, feeling connected to the universe and to those peaceful moments under falling stars. Far beyond the orbits of the planets, in the silent darkness between the stars, countless frozen bodies drift like lazy moths around a distant porch light. This remote reservoir of comets, the Oort cloud, is a vast realm of deep cold and quiet, extending perhaps a quarter of the way to the next star. For millions of years, most of these icy wanderers remain in their distant sanctuary, invisible and untroubled, circling the sun at scarcely a whisper of motion. But occasionally, a gentle gravitational nudge, perhaps from a passing star or the tide of the galaxy, sends one of these slumbering objects on a long fall toward the inner solar system. Thus begins a comet's voyage, a pilgrim journeying from the outer cold into the warmth and light of our sun. A comet is like a dirty snowball, a nucleus of ice, dust, and frozen gases. When this nucleus ventures closer to the sun after eons in exile, it begins to awaken. Solar warmth causes the ices to sublimate into gases, which pour out along with dust from the comet's surface. What was once an invisible rock now surrounds itself with a delicate atmosphere called a coma, a glowing cloud often larger than entire planets. Pressure from the solar wind and sunlight then stretches this material out into a vast tail that can extend millions of kilometers across space. The result is sublime. A faint, ghostly apparition with a shining core and a luminous tail trailing behind. Unlike meteors, which flash and vanish in seconds, a comet's presence unfolds over days and weeks. Imagine a new star appearing in the evening sky. At first, just a tiny smudge of light on the edge of vision. Night after night it grows a bit brighter and shifts its position among the stars. Soon you notice a subtle tail, like a beam of silvery mist, stretching from that fuzzy star. You might aim binoculars at it to drink in more detail. The head of the comet glowing a soft green-white perhaps, and the tail fanning out like a delicate plume. The sight feels gentle and almost alive, as if the comet is slowly breathing in the vacuum of space. Each evening, it moves a little further across the sky, a traveller progressing on a long path. Comets do not rush. They stroll through our skies with an almost contemplative pace, inviting us to slow down as well. Under a dark sky, free of city lights, such a visitor becomes an object of quiet fascination. You find yourself returning each clear night to watch its journey, knowing that in a few weeks or months it will fade away, back into the darkness. Throughout history, comets have been regarded as both wondrous and ominous. Ancient peoples looked up in awe and sometimes fear when a bright comet hung in the heavens, believing it a herald of great events. Now we understand these phenomena, and the fear has long since subsided, replaced by curiosity and admiration. We know that comets are travelers from afar, and when one graces our skies, it is an occasion for collective wonder. We share stories of comets we have seen, a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle that etches itself into memory. Many still speak of the great comet of 1997, Hale-Bopp, which commanded the night for weeks with its twin tails, or Halley's Comet, which returns like clockwork every 76 years and links generations together under its pale glow. As a comet leaves the inner solar system, it gradually sheds its luminous cloak. The coma dissipates, the tail dwindles, and the once splendid traveller becomes a small, cold nucleus again, bound on an orbit that will carry it back to its remote sanctuary. It resumes its long solitude, spending decades, centuries, or millennia in the outer darkness, before perhaps returning for another brief sojourn in the light. One might think of these comets as time travellers, carrying ancient ice and dust from the infancy of the solar system, preserving clues about those distant times. When a comet's particles fall to Earth, as meteor showers, they literally deliver pieces of that story to us. In this way, comets connect the deep past with the present moment of wonder as we watch them. Eventually, the comet that we have been observing grows faint and disappears from our view. Perhaps it rounds the sun and heads back out, or perhaps it has expended so much of its material that it will never shine quite so brightly again. In any case, the night sky returns to its usual stars and silence. Yet the visit of the comet leaves a lasting impression. We are left with a memory of witnessing a living relic from the farthest reaches of our solar system. In the comet's gentle arc and departure, there is a reminder of how vast our cosmos is, and how patient. These icy pilgrims teach us to treasure the rare moments when the distant and unknown becomes visible, if only briefly, to our waiting eyes before returning home to the darkness.